So are we televised? We're ready to go? Are we ready?
We're good to go.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James W. Hurston. I am the chairman of the Charlotte County Airport Authority. Today is our regular meeting for May 20th, 2021. And this is our pilot version of the televised meeting, so no pun intended there. But this meeting is hereby called to order. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody, and I'd like to remind everybody to please turn off your phone or silence your phone. And with that being said, we'll stand for the invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name, and we thank you for all that you do here for the Airport Authority. We ask now for wisdom, guidance, discernment as this board considers its monthly business. We thank you for the hedge of protection that you've provided in the past, and we ask for a continued hedge of protection for our operations and finances. And we just once again give you thanks and honor and praise. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Oliver.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Miss Amy, roll call, please.
Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Miss Oliver?
here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Hurston?
Present.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hansick?
Here.
Ms. Coppola?
Here.
Thank you, Amy. At this point in the meeting, do we have anybody in the audience who would like to give a little bit of input? If you could, please. If you could state your name for the record, and you're allowed 2 minutes, unless extended by me.
Just looking for something to sign it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Scott Andrzejczak.
Scott, what was the name?
Andrzejczak.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go quickly here. On December 3rd, 2020, Andrew Vasey of Vasey Aviation sent an email to Vanessa Oliver at ambertrans.com. It was about a letter from the Punta Gorda City Council to the state delegation. I won't go into the details. 3 minutes later, Ms. Oliver sent to her father, Mike Grant, that same email, forwarding it on the private email of Mr. Grant, of State Representative Michael Grant, who 2 hours later sent it to his staff asking if they had it. I have a copy of this. I'm going to give it all to you. I'm just going to explain it quickly. So as I was doing my research, this came up, and so this appears to be multiple violations of the open records laws. Mr. Vasey to then Commissioner Oliver then to her father on his private Ambitrans account, and from his private Ambitrans account to his staff asking about it. Now, I asked Mr. Vasey in a records request for more of these, for all of his emails. He refused, said he wasn't subject to it. I believe the Florida statutes are clear that they need to turn these over as contractors to the Airport Authority. Mr. Representative Grant didn't answer our questions as well. So I'd like to make a public records request through the attorney here for all the emails between Vasey Aviation and the mgrant at ambitrans.com email address, the Vasey Aviation email account to and from the V. Oliver at ambitrans.com account, and also the two Pam Say accounts that are actually listed here, which you'll see here. I'm not sure where the attorney is.
Scott, 10
Oh,
seconds.
there you go.
There's Attorney Carr.
And so I'll give these to you. So I'd like to get all of those emails through a records request through the Airport Authority. The reason I'm doing this is because this is probably the best run airport I've been to. I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the planet. Europe, North America, Asia. While we have a small airport, I love the efficiency of this airport. You guys have done a great job, and there's something really wrong going on. I believe some group was trying to take over this airport, outsiders who were going to not have our best interests at heart. If you don't investigate this, they will be back. These people don't go away. I guarantee you they will be back, and they will have their interests at heart and not our interests in this community. So I would like this board, it would be great if all of you would direct the attorney to turn this over to the state attorney's office, the FDLE, whoever, and find out exactly what was going on
Scott, that's
with this.
been 2 minutes, 45 seconds. You're running over.
Okay, I'm going to give you a copy of all of this.
Okay.
And I didn't know you had only 2 minutes. You have,
Yeah.
you know, I'm used to 3, which is barely enough. So I'll turn these over to you folks. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Scott.
Commissioners.
If you could just give it to Amy, and she'll
Amy.
distribute it.
All right, while we wait on Scott to give documents to Amy, do we have anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak? I see Gary Bain rustling around in his chair there. I guess he's not coming. Anybody else?
Just to the extent that that's a public records request, I need to know who to respond to. I'm sorry, I don't have his communication. So if you could just please tell her how you want us to respond to you, please.
Thank you, Attorney Carr.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else like to speak? Going. All right, we will move on to number 6, additions and/or deletion. James, Mr. Parrish.
Right now, the only thing I have is to move agenda item 14G to 14A. People making the presentation need to get to the county to make another presentation. So.
14G to 14A, very good.
Jim, do you want to go ahead and just move that to now and just get it over with, as opposed to going through the rest of the agenda? So all these folks don't have to stand here for an hour while we go through the preliminary?
Actually, they're not all here. So.
Oh, okay. So,
All right, we'll move 14G to 14A under new business. Anything else, Mr. Parrish?
That's it.
All right, Ms. Disquin.
The plaques for the employee service recognition did not arrive on time, so we're going to move the 2 people that were being recognized to next month. Nothing's arriving on time anymore, but I would like to introduce the board to Mr. Duncan. Gary Duncan came to us from an airport south of here. He also worked for Jacksonville, managed Hurlong, which is one of their general aviation airports, was instrumental in getting Page's new FBO online. So we brought him on staff to help out in some of the high-level things going on. He is a great addition to staff, and I just, if you guys want to sit down and talk to him, he's available. I know Mr. Hansick's already come in. I think Vanessa met him the other day when she was in. So, but Gary Duncan, thank you for joining our staff, and we look forward to working with him for a long time, or until he retires.
Gary, you want to say a few words while we're all gathered here?
You could just
Keep it short, maybe?
No, I'm just extremely proud to be part of this staff, working in Fort Myers for about the last 20 years. We've always kept an eye on Punta Gorda, and when you landed Allegiant, we were all skeptical at first, but to see it in action and to see the way this staff performs day in and day out, I could see why you're all so proud of them. They're extremely competent and extremely dedicated to the cause here, and yeah, I'm just ecstatic to be part of this organization. So thank you.
Gary, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on then to number 8, the consent agenda. We have 2 items on that number 8.
I make a motion to approve.
A second.
All right, we have a motion for an approval and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our Secretary Treasurer's report. Mr. Hansick.
Okay, we have 2 months to report. I have a summary. I'll skip February because the numbers are included in the March report. You can see the up on the monitors, the report revenue to date this year, $7.5 million, over budget by $290,000. Expenses were under budget by right at $300,000, and operating gain and profit we're up positive of $585,000. Cash in the bank is about almost $26 million. I want to make a note that that does not include CARES grant funds. So we've weathered the virus storm quite well, and you'll probably see later from the report on our traffic and statistics that at least Punta Gorda Airport is on its road being back to normal again. I did notice in the ACI put out a list of all the downturns in the air carrier airports across the country, and our traffic downturned about 27% during that period. So we fared a lot better than other communities, primarily, I'm guessing, because of the leisure market.
Leisure is back. Business is still not. So.
Okay, that's it in a nutshell as far as if Mr. Parrish wants to go into some other financial details, but this is the.
Yeah, I mean, we can accounts receivable is the only thing that's really interesting, and the only major accounts receivable we have is Hertz, which is subject to a bankruptcy, so we have very limited chance of collecting that, but we are doing well in this point in time. I think we're doing really well with the receivables. We've given a good overview. If anyone has any specific questions.
Jim, if possible, I know we're busy enough, but a nice accounts receivable curve, maybe, an Excel spreadsheet curve like we do on our passengers might be nice.
It would go from about $500,000 down to about 11,000, which has been running for a long time.
Even with a 30, 60, and over 90 curve, still look like
Yeah,
a.
we're really doing a very good job here.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Commissioner Hansick. Any questions for Mr. Hansick? All right, we will move on then to our committee reports. Mr. Hansick, you have this Punta Gorda City Council.
I do not have anything to report from the city of Punta Gorda. However, Mr. Miller, our liaison city councilman, is here. Anything we need to know about that I've missed, which is entirely possible?
I don't know if I can speak from back here. My voice is kind of bad, but I would just report that yesterday we got rid of all of the city COVID issue requirements. So we're back at normal, both in the city council as well as the buildings. And I could say throughout the city, we're entirely open. All restrictions have been removed at this time.
Congratulations.
Unless you want me to talk about the sign code, which you don't.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, is that it, Mr. Hansick? All right, we'll move on to Mr. Andrews' report, the Board of County Commissioners.
Well, like Commissioner Hansick, I have nothing to report, but Commissioner Deutsch is here. If he would like to add anything that is of importance.
Mr. Chairman, does he get 2 minutes also? Oh, sorry.
He only
You didn't speak in the microphone, would you say?
he only gets a minute.
I'm sure you got 2 minutes.
I think the question was, does he have?
Well,
have
let me
to-
tell you, your commission has been so busy that I couldn't cover what we've done in the last 2 weeks in 2 minutes. We're in the midst of our 2-year strategic planning cycle.
We've had special meetings on reviewing quarterly CCU and utility. One of the things this board commission has been doing, certainly for the last 10, 12 years, is we've been looking way, way down the road with transportation issues, with water issues. Water quality is a main thing for us. Today this afternoon, we're going to be going over the MSPUs. We are in the midst of, and I used the acronym at a meeting a couple meetings ago, and now I notice the media is using it, and we're seeing it around town. And we're in a process that we're experiencing APE, an accelerated population explosion, which you should be well aware of. I know how busy the realtors are. But the commissioners, we're aggressively moving ahead. Fiscally, we're very sound. Not like you guys, but we're very sound fiscally. Things look good. I had toyed with the idea of suggesting a drop in the millage rate, but the biggest part of our budgets goes to the schools and the sheriff's office, so it wouldn't have that much of an impact. But the county is in good shape, and we're being meeting to death. But at an aside, and this is mine, and I mentioned this to your chairman the other day, we're looking into the possibility, and they'll be contacting probably Jim or your staff. I'm trying to see if we can get your meetings put on CCTV. I know that we're doing the city council meetings now, and I think just cover the expenses. It's not an awful lot, but I think we could pick up and expand for what you're doing, and it would be a service to the community. So we're looking into if the quality of what you do can interface with us, so I'd like to share that. I don't know if you have any questions, but.
Any questions for Commissioner Deutsch?
All right, thank you much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Commissioner Andrews. All right, we'll move on to the Metropolitan Planning Organization and Economic Development. That's my committee. And the MPO meeting, we just met on Monday at 2 o'clock in Murdoch. And I presented probably too long of a presentation on
You and I would share those meetings were much shorter.
It was a very long meeting. It went past 5 o'clock, but I presented pretty well a summary of our report that's included in our package today, and it was well appreciated. And we also, the biggest contention was our transportation improvement plan. I think it's our 5-year. I think it's our 5-year plan. Commissioner Constance actually had some problems because part of Harborview Road wasn't included, and so it was actually a 4-1 vote where Commissioner Deutsch or Commissioner Constance voted against it. But we had 5 or 6 or 7 airport projects in that plan to the DOT, and I couldn't jeopardize those approval of those plans for a couple miles of Harborview Road. So. But anyway, so that was it was a long meeting, and I also attended the MPOAC meeting last week in Orlando, and I won't get into the details, but it was a well attended meeting. But I did attend in our honor, and that's it for my report. I had a summary agenda for the MPOAC that I just couldn't put my hands on it this morning. But with that being said, that's the end of my report, and we'll move on to community. Commissioner Coppola.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Suddenly getting a little more active with this COVID kind of going on the downslide. I was at the Trump Club the other night, and that was an interesting group. But the most interesting meeting I've been to was the Port Charlotte Women's Club, where they gave out scholarships. Excuse me. And there was a young gentleman there who was going to Embry-Riddle to become a pilot. What a nice young fella. And we gave him some money for his books and towards his tuition, and he was very pleased. There was also a nice young lady there that was going into the medical profession. So that's a good group of people, and they do a lot for the community. That's the Port Charlotte Women's Club, if anybody's interested in joining that. Also, what else was I? I went to the other Republican club that meets over at Kingsgate and represented the airport there at Kingsgate. And that's what I've been doing.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move on then to our all-important State Legislation Committee. That's Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as most of you know, session wrapped up, but the legislators are back in Tallahassee this week for the special session related to gambling. But in your packets, you had great summaries from the Florida Airports Council and Capital Access, and they gave a really thorough discussion of matters pertaining to the airports. Highlights of that include House Bill 77, the diesel exhaust fluid bill, which everyone was watching very closely. It was kind of watered down. It passed, airports must maintain a DEF safety mitigation and exclusion plan, but I think it's, the language is more in line with what we were hoping for. Other highlights from this session include House Bill 1, which supports law enforcement and holds those who incite mob violence accountable. Senate Bill 72, which protects frontline heroes and businesses from frivolous COVID-19 lawsuits. Senate Bill 90, which promotes integrity and transparency in Florida's elections. And one that I thought was interesting is House Bill 1103, which is special district accountability. It seems to mainly pertain to smaller special districts that are not already being audited. That was the bulk of it. However, some provisions do apply to us. Now, there's some additional oversight for our special district. Our audit must include additional information to include the number of employees that we employ, their salaries, the number of independent contractors and the independent contractor payments, and construction projects that are in excess of $65,000, and also if a budget variance report. As far as our community, our local appropriations include $2 million in funding for local septic to sewer conversions, which will help our water quality and hopefully lead to increased tourism in our region. $750,000 for Charlotte Behavioral Center's Children's Community Action Treatment Team, that's their CAT team, which provides comprehensive community-based services to children ages 11 to 21 with more significant mental health or substance abuse problems. It, brings the CAT team to them, so to speak. And then $1 million to fund Punta Gorda's Boca Grande area quality improvements. And if you all have any other questions, or if Mr. Parrish wants to fill in more on the Florida Airports Council.
I would, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring your attention to 2 in the losses column, and there are 2 very important items for airports. One is the ad valorem tax exemption for aviation uses. This is under attack on multiple fronts, from Orange County, from Hillsborough County, Palm Beach County. Their tax assessors and have decided that aviation uses are taxable and are going after them. They are also in Orange County going after the airport for unpaid taxes from previous leases. That could open us up for liability from the Speedway, whose previous operators did not pay their taxes before they went bankrupt. So it's just something, we had some clarification language that we were asking to be put in, which would have clarified the old law that really meant to give no taxation for aviation uses, but was not completely clear, and they're using that little bit in the language to go after airports and aviation uses. So it would affect all of our current avionics shops, medjets, anybody that's on the airfield that currently doesn't pay ad valorem taxes. And also there was a Turo peer-to-peer vehicle law that passed that was supported by Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is, they were mortal enemies until they got together, which concerns us. We asked for a simple sentence to be added that says you have to have an agreement with the airport to operate at the airport, which is required by our crime insurances. We could not get that supported, even though we had somebody willing to put it in. We could not get it through the amendment process. Although the sponsor agreed that it should be there, he would not put it in. So we are going to try and get that in next year, but right now, Turo is a little bit puffed up and think they can do what we don't want them to do, and that's one of the reasons we have a Turo policy on our agenda today.
Thank you, James. FAC, looks like they do really good work, it appears.
It was a very exciting session, and we could not meet with them, so a lot of it was done over Zoom and phone calls.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Commissioner Oliver, is that it?
That's all that I have.
All right, thank you. You're welcome. All right, we'll move on to our attorney's report. Daryl Carr of the Farfar Law Firm. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm pleased to tell you that you're not being sued by anybody, nor is anybody threatening to sue you. Mr. Parrish and I have been working on any number of issues which are going to be covered under his report and a bunch of asides. There's no reason for me to go into those until you're considering each of those. So I'll defer as we go through those in Mr. Parrish's report under his lengthy presentation.
Hopefully not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Carr. All right, we'll move on then to our CEO's report. Mr. Parrish.
First thing I'd like to do is bring Angie Matheson up. She's the executive director of the United Way, and let's just talk a little bit about their program and the things they're doing for the community. I know Katie has been active with their fundraising. She'll probably bring here. Thank you.
And Kaylee has actually will be joining our board in August, so we're really happy about that. United Way of Charlotte County Board. My name is Angie Matheson. I'm the Executive Director at United Way of Charlotte County, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I appreciate the ability to come and give you an update about Charlotte County from the lens of the United Way. Our mission, mobilizing the power of our community to break the cycle of poverty. Over 55 years, the United Way has been serving Charlotte County. Oh, actually, I need to get used to clicking the mouse. Yes, there it is, our mission. Our vision, a community where all citizens achieve their potential through education, financial stability, and healthy lives. These are the three cornerstones of a good life, and every person in this community deserves that. Who we are. From the lens that the United Way uses to understand who we are, our mission work is based on understanding who lives in our community and what their needs are. In order to do our work, we need to have a really good, true understanding of that. And we are all about Charlotte County. Many people think United Ways are all together, United Way worldwide. United Way of Charlotte County exists to serve Charlotte County. We are much like a franchise where we work within the context of our community. We certainly partner with our communities neighboring, but by and large, we are here to serve Charlotte County. So what do we know about Charlotte County? A lens we use is the Alice Report. We know that people are working and barely able to make it. 2018, you can see 29,964 folks unable to afford even the most basic budget. And of that number, the 22,381 are the folks that are working and barely able to make it, and they're a crisis away from going homeless. When you look at that, you also know that there's a lot of stressors that come with that, and that compounds for the whole family. That was just before COVID-19 hit. We received that report early March of 2020. So that is a pre-COVID-19 context. Also, in February of 2020, the Community Health and Needs Assessment was released. The top number one health issue, child abuse, neglect, and well-being. I'm not going to read all of these, but I think it's really important to note that Charlotte County, and you may not be aware of this, in 2018 was the third highest in the state for child abuse and neglect, ages 5 to 11, and we've moved to the second highest in the state. Parental drug abuse is the number one reason for children being removed from the home, and I'm particularly passionate about making sure that these families are addressed. That's my personal passion as an executive director, and we need to make sure our kids are ready for kindergarten. We need to make sure they're able to be successful, so you'll hear about our lens for how we address that. But half of our children entering kindergarten not ready is an issue. And of course, this was pre-COVID-19. Or this is, yes. So the United Way of Charlotte County, we're a backbone agency for our community. You can see here the conditions that make sure that we can move our community through making an impact. So we have to know that we're making an impact. We can't just say we're making an impact. We have to be able to show you that. And that's an important part of the work we do. We mobilize funding and resources, and we do that in a manner that allows us to see how are we impacting the families that I just talked about. And that's my responsibility, is to make sure as a community representation, as a staff, as a board, that we're doing that for this community. One of the things that we're most familiar or most known for is our allocations process. A lot of people think that we're a funding agency, that where the money comes in and the money goes out. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. We are much broader than that, deeper than that. We want to hold our community accountable for making an impact through all of our funded nonprofits. We do that with volunteers from the community. Anyone is welcome to join us with that. You can see how many volunteer hours in a year to do that process. We mobilize funding from the county, from the city, and United Way donor dollars. You can see here our last fiscal year, we invested $977,672 across 18 partners. When we have that responsibility, it's important that we're using those funds in a proper way, again, to show the impact. You guys with me? So we do this, and as I mentioned, the issues that our community is facing, we have a strategic focus in that we have to make sure that if we're mobilizing to eliminate poverty, we have to start early. We have to prevent the issues early on. So yes, that is a focus for us, and we break it down into birth to 5 years, kindergarten to third grade, cradle to career, and families. So we have to approach the whole family. Not, if we're serving the child, we have to understand what the parents' needs. If we're serving the parents' needs, we have to understand the children's needs. We also have a tremendous community of seniors that are isolated, and so they're not forgotten as well. The magic sauce of what I believe United Way does, and we're very proud of, is that we invest in community collaborations, and these are made up of our nonprofit partners who have identified a problem. They've identified a shared way to address that problem, and they're doing the work together. The magic sauce, we fund navigators who work with those nonprofits to make sure they're solving the problems properly and efficiently and saving the community dollars, and I hope to illustrate that for you. So our Kids Thrive, birth to 5, we're investing in families of babies born substance exposed. That's a thing. Babies are being born to mothers who are addicted to drugs. We cannot ignore it. It's a huge priority when we have children entering the early learning system and they have behavior issues and they're getting suspended. This was how we identified the problem. We knew it was a problem, but so we've been addressing it now for several years. We're in a collaboration with the state of Florida maternal opioid recovery effort in partnership with Bayfront Hospital to really address this. We're using a peer model for the parents to be networking together and to learn from one another. They're building social capital and resources so that they can be successful and we can have healthy babies ready to be successful in school and be future incredibly successful citizens in Charlotte County. Charlotte County Reads is our kindergarten to third grade approach. And I could say many things about this, but the most important thing is we're tracking high-risk children through partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and the Y, powerhouse organizations working with the school system to make sure that our kids are doing well. These partners, during a COVID summer, we'll always call it the COVID summer, our kids that were served by these organizations, 80% of them had no reading skill loss compared to the region at 73%. These organizations are doing a phenomenal job. As I mentioned, we always are working within the context of the family. How can we bring our families from crisis to self-sufficiency? And so that's a lens that we work through. How do we build social capital for these families? I'm going to ask you a question. Did you know that Charlotte County has effectively ended veteran homelessness and chronic homelessness? Did you guys know that? Phenomenal. It's like, you guys, it's a major celebration. So they have the partners that are involved in this. We fund navigation for this collaboration across Charlotte Behavioral Health Care, the Homeless Coalition, Virginia Bee Andes, and the Gulf Coast Partnership. So these navigators have been working together with all of the partners over the last 4 years, and certainly as a community we have done this. And they have applied. It takes a year to effectively get the recognition from the federal government, but effectively ended chronic homelessness in 2020. That does not mean that we don't have homeless people. It means that folks who have been homeless for more than a year, who have insurance, who don't have health insurance, who have a mental health or substance abuse issue, we have the resources in place to get them housed rapidly, rare, brief, and a one-time experience. We've also now moved on to unaccompanied youth and families to address that because we've been so successful. Is that something to celebrate? It's a tremendous savings to our community, and so I hope that what you're getting today is the value of the work of United Way. I'm super proud of it, but of all of our partners. But this guy right here, he's the one who was December 31st officially housed and became the ability for us to claim and effectively ending chronic homelessness. Isn't that wonderful? Almost done here. One of the major programs that United Way invests in, and it's national, is our VITA program. Have you guys heard of our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program? We provide, through a volunteer program, free tax preparation assistance for Charlotte County citizens. Their income needs to be under $66,000. However, you can see here this past year we just wrapped up our VITA program, and the adjusted gross income of the 682 tax returns was $22,000. So we're serving a very, I'm going to just say it, a part of our community that is struggling, and we are hitting the mark here. It is important that we provide this free service to the community. We've done this through mobilizing 1,900 volunteer hours. Volunteers in our community step up to say we want to help with this program and we want to help the community, and it's all about grace, providing people the best service possible. That's our 8th year. We had to revamp our entire program because of COVID. We're doing this in the schools, and we had to identify new locations, and so being able to do that this year with revamping our program was pretty stellar. And lastly, a program that we manage, that we've been managing for over 20 years, is a grant we received called Season of Sharing, where we provide rent, mortgage, utilities assistance for folks who are on the edge of going homeless. And last year, 800 families, $571,852 was used to serve 2,196 people. And these folks are one step away from being homeless. 100% of the funds that we receive there go to help the families. The administrative work that United Way does is really, for me, the magic sauce. All of the things I just mentioned are done with a very lean staff, with a very passionate heart, and a very focused mission. That's the United Way of Charlotte County. And I am open to answer any questions if you would like. I'm very thankful to be able to provide this information today, and if anyone would like to join us in mobilizing in our efforts, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Angie. Commissioners?
I had no idea. This is quite comprehensive. I had no idea that you're able to do all this, and with the money, wow, to help 800 families, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's, I'm so busy kind of doing the work. Appreciate being invited to come and share. And we absolutely, we can get out and say that. And we actually have a column in the paper every week, and that's also a good way for people to, it's every Sunday. It's usually the back page of the local section. I would say draw your attention to that. It tells a little bit more of our story.
Okay, great. Great.
Angie, I have a quick question. Your stats on you've totally defeated homelessness. Does that mean that we're not seeing people out underneath pepper bushes and the like?
That is not what that means. So there's different categories of homelessness. There's veterans, and this is the way the federal government defines homelessness. So there's veterans, chronically homeless, unaccompanied youth, families, women, single individuals. So in order to be effectively end chronically homeless, you're talking about a very specific definition of people who've been homeless more than a year, don't have health insurance, and have a substance abuse and mental health issue. So as those people are identified that are coming in, we have the resources in place to house them. And it's the same way with when we effectively ended veteran homelessness. We have all the resources in place. As a veteran gets identified, we're able to house them quickly. And the key part about the ending chronic homelessness is that what's important is that we're able to get these folks on medical insurance within a very rapid time frame. Rapid meaning we're beating the national stats, so that the community is not taking the burden of the uninsured person. But we're talking about folks who have been literally sleeping on the ground with major medical conditions and major mental health conditions that now have a home. And as we identify more, we have the resources in place because of the partnerships that we've created to do that. And I will also mention, I forgot to mention, in the state of Florida, we're the first ones, once we finally get that confirmation from the federal government, the first to effectively end veterans and chronically homeless in the state. And then nationally, we've researched, we meaning Angela Hogan at the Gulf Coast Partnership, because we're all part of a team. There's maybe less than a handful in the country that have been able to do what our community has done. It is amazing.
Congratulations. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yes.
Angie, I just want to thank you so much for coming today and sharing this incredible presentation about the great work that you all are doing at the United Way. I'm lucky to have been a part of the United Way for a long time, and it's really influenced me. And the reason that I'm on this board is because the airport is the hub of economic activity in Charlotte County, and we as a board have the ability to create jobs and create high-paying jobs to get these families out of the ALICE threshold, the working poor, and move them up into the threshold where they're thriving. And I appreciate your work so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow Leadership Charlotte alumni over there.
Very good. I was very, very impressed by everything.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, Mr. Parrish.
I'm going to, unless there's any specific questions on the development, marketing, and aviation report, we can go through the aviation report. Then your package is a very verbose development report as well as a marketing report. If you have any questions, I can answer them. If not, we can move to the aviation report.
I see everybody nodding their heads. Let's move on, James.
Okay. The next slide, just run through aviation real quick. As Mr. Hansik mentioned, we are slowly but surely getting back to what we can call normal. Southwest Florida airports are doing really well. Most of the airports that are leisure markets are doing really well. Orlando Orlando Sanford is lagging behind because of the parks, but they are now open and operating. So I think you'll see it all coming back. The orange line is this year. We expect summer to be pretty good, and we're hitting our numbers that we use for budget. I think last month we were off by 100. So our staff is doing a really good job at trying to make sense of the future. And so next slide. Avgas, we had a good April. March is about normal. We've been doing really well with avgas usage and avgas sales. Next slide. Our jet is way up, and and I think that's the economy. We're seeing a lot more jet traffic. The FBO's really busy. I talked to Naples. They are selling and I wish we were there, almost 1 million gallons a month in jet fuel. We are pumping 1 million gallons a month in jet fuel. Airlines wouldn't operate if we charged them what we charge everyone else. So that's Allegiant for the month, and you can see April last year was abysmal for everybody. We had 3 weeks in March that were really good.
Mr. Parrish, just like to remind everybody that on May 27th, Allegiant will start the Baltimore-Washington service here, 2 flights per week on Thursdays and Sundays. And then in December, Sun Country will be joining us with routes to Minneapolis. And just to kind of FYI, Sun Country is the 11th largest carrier in the United States. They serve 67 destinations throughout the Caribbean, North America, Mexico, and Latin America. So that'll be a great addition for us. We'll continue to work with them to get some more cities.
James, our passenger curves, what's interesting is 6 out of those 7 curves are basically taking the same form.
Oh, they
So
always,
except for the one.
They almost always take the same form. That is Florida. If you looked at any Florida airport, the curve looks identical.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Mr. Parrish.
I do have 2 things. We are working, and I just want to bring the board attention to this. Cheney Road, the road that accesses the Cheney facility, is overrun with delivery trucks for Cheney parking on it. We have asked the county to put up no parking signs. To date, that hasn't happened. They're a little hesitant to put up no parking signs on the road that is directly in front of Cheney. I will tell you, we had a major company looking at the lot, about 8 acres next to Cheney, and they have backed out until we can resolve this problem. They need to have free access to their parcel. Right now, they don't have free access. I've been working with Hector and their staff to try and get this. They said we need an ordinance, but they don't want police to spend their time moving people along. The fact is, they're parking on public property. They're parking on our property. They're destroying the road. They're destroying the edge of pavement. The other day, they hit a fire hydrant, completely undermined the road, and one truck fell 3 feet into a hole. The fire hydrant at the end of Cheney Way has been hit multiple times. The city continues to put bollards around it, but then the bollards get hit. It's an issue that there needs to be a solution to, and the solution can't be the public land. I mean, the Cheney has a problem. I'm willing to work with them to put them on our property if they want to lease it to put their trucks, or they need to come up with a solution. But we're working through that, and I just wanted to bring your attention to it. If we can't get anything, it is our road. I mean, we own the land. It is in an easement for construction, maintenance, and operation through the county, but we'll have to look at options through us if the county won't do anything.
Jim, so it's constructed to county standards, but it's a private road?
No, it's a public road
Okay, it
through
is a
an
public
easement.
road. 2 things. Does the ECAP allow truck rental yards? In your opinion?
I would not call this a storage yard. If we lease them 4 acres to park stage trucks, this is not storage, and I think it would be acceptable.
Yeah, I got you. And number 2, Commissioner Deutsch, do you have anything to say about that issue?
Have Jim give me a call and send me some of those pictures.
Okay.
James, if you'll call Commissioner Deutsch.
I will tell you there have been 2 instances recently where the road was completely blocked. Now, those are they say only happens once or twice a year, but the fact is every day there are 15, 20 trucks parked on the edge of the road. It's destroying the edge of pavement. There is no grass growing on the median strip, and so it is an issue. The last thing is I just wanted to bring your attention that we've been working on a settlement agreement with Mr. Vasey, Vasey Aviation. I did get a final settlement last night at 11:54. It is for $30,000, and our attorney has reviewed it prior to me sending it to him. We have also settled with the other two vendors that are mentioned in the statement for significantly lower than requested amounts. And I would like to just have concurrence from the board to go ahead and settle this issue and take it off the table.
Commissioner Hansick.
It was just a question related to the trucks. I'm out here enough to notice the trucks there. And it seems like a lot of those trucks are parked there because they're arriving outside of their normal hours of accepting deliveries.
So that is the case. They arrive, as
Before 8 o'clock.
over the road truckers do. They arrive and
3
sleep
hours.
in their truck until they're allowed in. And from what I understand, and I have not really met with Cheney on their functional operations, I met with them on this issue. I think it's first come, first serve. So the guy wants to get in, sleep, then leave and get his next load. So.
Jim, access from, we have adjacent properties that we own, is that correct?
Correct.
Is the access from the road to our properties, would it need an apron, or does it have a ditch alongside?
We have high points in the ditch where we could cross without major.
Can
All
I
right.
ask a question? Where
Yes,
would these
Commissioner.
truckers go if we put no parking, and there's, how many, you said 6 or 7 of them lined up?
Oh, no, 20 to,
20?
yeah.
Holy smokes.
Honestly,
Where would they go?
I don't know, but there are logistic issues that can be
Yeah.
made apps that, you set a time for you to arrive. That is not our concern, where they go.
Yeah.
Our concern is they're impeding the growth of the industrial park because
Yeah.
honestly, the user was out there at 6 a.m., which is when their trucks would be coming and going, and said, we obviously can't use the
Breaking
facility.
down the property, too.
Yeah.
What was the other question I was going to
Can we get them back, James, in your opinion?
I think so.
Okay.
I think
Can
so.
we put up our own signs? Are we permitted?
We can, and that's what we would have to pass an ordinance and put up our own signs.
Because I donated a no parking sign to you a while back.
But if we put them on our own property, we wouldn't need an ordinance. If they were just on the other side of the right-of-way line?
No, but we wouldn't have any authority to enforce it, and that's what we need. We need the authority for the
Yeah.
sheriff to go over there and say, move along.
That's
I
gonna-
got you.
It's going to break down the soil and everything,
Oh,
isn't it?
I would
Absolutely.
encourage you all to drive through
Yeah.
the industrial park and look at the medians.
Is it curb and gutter or just
No.
edge of pavement?
Just a roll section.
Okay.
Huh.
Any other questions for Mr. Parrish? Before we got into the road, you had asked us to, on the Vasey issue.
Yes, I'd just like to get the board's concurrence on settlement of that. I don't want to.
Jim, is it in compliance basically of our previous discussions? Because
It is in compliance with what we discussed, and it is within the amount of the current agreement for
I think-
all parties to
I
be
think we
settled.
authorized you and Attorney Carr to negotiate the final settlement on a couple meetings ago. Commissioner Oliver, you okay? Good?
Can we hear from our attorney on this?
Yes. Attorney Carr.
We need your expertise.
Yes, Commissioner Cola, what we did was we drafted the agreement. There was some discussion relative to who had to pay. Some people that were, our position, were subcontractors hired by Mr. Vasey. He declined, indicating they were not, although we never authorized the work. What has occurred is that we have negotiated, actually Mr. Parrish has negotiated with those subs to pay them and to pay Mr. Vasey, all within the scope of the amount of money that would have been paid to Mr. Vasey. And as a result, everything is completed within the value of that Vasey contract.
So it's your approval on that?
Yes, ma'am. I've reviewed it. In fact, I prepared the document. It's just been a question of negotiating the numbers.
All right. James, you want a motion on that? I have no problem with that.
I just want to make sure the board concurs with our resolution and move on.
I concur.
Okay. All right.
Kathleen?
If the attorney says it's the way to go, I
Commissioner
trust his
Hansick?
judgment.
Hansick?
I don't like it, but I trust his judgment.
What? No, what?
No, I don't think we should pay them off.
Oh,
It's all right, you're going to have 4 votes. So.
yeah.
I need 3,
But I think there's more to be learned.
a big lesson here, yes.
You want to vote on that? You think that'd be advisable?
I believe you should have a public accord on it, yes.
Public court,
Accord.
accord. Yes,
I make a
Commissioner Hall.
motion that we approve or authorize Mr. Parrish to execute a settlement with Vasey Aviation and the two subs that we mentioned before for the sums that he mentioned.
All right, we have a motion as presented by Commissioner Oliver. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Andrews. Is there any further discussion?
I'm now in a yes or no situation. I'm not happy with it
None of us are.
at all, no. I don't think what was done here was legitimate in our favor, and it worries me a lot that somebody would do this to us. So I think I'm going to change my opinion.
Any other, yes, Commissioner?
My question is, if we pursued anything else, is how much is it going to cost us in time and?
Well, that's a point.
It's a good point.
Is it really going to get us anywhere further than, I mean, initially, the talk was, let's pay everything off and move on.
I assume we're on a discussion.
Yes, yes, we're in the discussion
I
of
opened
the
up the
motion.
discussion.
Yes. Good.
I understand what Paul is saying. Mine is always a question, but I think in this situation that we look at the expenditure.
Can you move your mic? They can't hear it.
I didn't want you to hear. No. No, I think the expenditure would well be worth the exploration. I don't know where it's going. We don't accept the offer. I mean, we haven't said we're going to sue the guy. We're just not going to pay him, is what I understand what the motion is. Am I correct?
I don't think that we've authorized Mr. Parrish to preemptively breach the agreement. We have not authorized him one way or another. At this point, we came to consensus back in January that we were just going to let it go. Since then, there's been more discussion. We have not given Mr. Parrish a clear direction of what we want to pursue with a vote. I think staff needs this clarification so we can move on and get back to work, celebrate our successes with Sun Country, and work on new development deals. I don't think that we need our attorney's time wrapped up in this, staff's time wrapped up in this. I think it's in the best interest of all of us just to sign the agreement.
Attorney Carr.
Sir.
I saw you scribbling there as if you had an idea while Commissioner Oliver was talking.
Well, number one is I don't know that I understand the phrase preemptive breach, but that's what I was writing down, that phraseology. I've never heard that phrase, but anyway, so I wanted to just note that phrase.
Sure.
I'm going to address Commissioner Hansick's position. I didn't want to do that while he was. Mr. Hansick, you are correct relative to the process. That is, we have declined to pay him at this point while we're under negotiation. There is a belief that there was a breach of his fiduciary duty relative to the board, to the processes that occurred, especially with the city of Punta Gorda and perhaps others. We have declined to pay him. However, I think the direction that we had from the board previously was to resolve this within the scope and boundaries of the expenses that we were going to incur under the contract, and that's what we have concluded. Obviously, the option is to not conclude the settlement within that scope, not pay Mr. Vasey because we put him on notice of what we believe to be the breach, and if he decides to initiate litigation, then of course we can engage in the litigation. I think Commissioner Andrews' position is, do you really want to go through the expense and effort of the litigation? And Commissioner Oliver's position is it's a distraction. I believe that summarizes the conversation.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is I feel, the fiduciary relationship between him and the airport was violated drastically when he went behind our back.
There's
Mr. Parrish.
There's no doubt. I agree. I honestly want to get this off our plate. We have a lot of positive things moving forward, and a lawsuit kind of sucks a lot of wind out of our sails.
Is there any way we can, do you want it just to die and be over with, right?
Well, the settlement...
Or can we write something up about what happened to us to warn other people, perhaps?
There is a non-disparagement clause in the agreement. He can't say anything bad about us, we can't say anything bad about him.
Well, you're saying there's a gag clause in the agreement?
No, I think,
Noting that that
Both
only
ways.
goes to the airport authority because it is the only person signing on the agreement. He attempted to make everybody here, including myself, sign it, which I vehemently objected to, and I believe all the commissioners individually objected to. That has since been removed.
yeah, it's just me signing.
Actually, it's just the airport, you're signing on behalf of the
Yeah, airport authority.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, the chair will call the vote. All those in favor of Commissioner motion for approval, say aye.
Aye. Reluctantly,
Aye.
aye.
Are you, Kathleen, you're an aye?
Yes,
I'm an aye.
reluctant, but yes.
Those opposed say no.
I'm working on it. Well, to make your life easy, I'll go ahead and, again, reluctantly approve it. I think that this subject will come up later.
That's an aye. Okay. All right. The motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir,
you,
you're
Board.
welcome.
Can we put something in our next contracts to
I-
avoid this situation altogether?
It is in all of our contracts, less this one, and there was a reason for it, and yes.
Thank you. Is that a yes?
I'm sorry, what did you want to put in the
Just
contract?
a clause that any party can cancel a contract.
Yeah.
And that was actually part of the discussion in this particular contract was entered into. Obviously, Mr. Vasey's perspective was that he was here for a long term and the projects were long term, et cetera, and he did not want a unilateral right to terminate by the airport authority. And Commissioner C., who was at that time the chairperson, determined that was appropriate, and that's what y'all agreed to. But yes, normally we do have a right of determination of a contract. Termination at will, assuming, of course, it's not a project that's in process. But it was the nature of the work that Mr. Vasey was supposed to do that he indicated he could not have a termination at will.
Interesting.
I know the IDA needs to, the people talking about the IDA land need to get up and talk quickly. So if we can move on, Chair?
Yes, please, absolutely. Move on then to new business number 14. We're going to move forward, and we've moved 14G up to 14A.
Good morning, Jerry Waxler, and while you're used to seeing me up here in my capacity as an attorney, I'm here today as a member of an investment group that has made an offer to purchase the 80 acres adjacent to the northeast corner of the airport. We have made that offer to the IDA, which currently owns the property. Our intent would be to excavate the property in 2 phases. The slide that you have up here shows phase 1, which would be to excavate 15 acres with the intent of providing the fill necessary for the wetlands that are in the way of your airport, of your runway expansion. Slide 2 shows the second phase, which would be, we would hope to be able to excavate an additional 45 acres. The fill would be available for the airport if it needs it for its filling of wetlands to the south end of the property. It would also be able to provide stormwater capacity for the airport's further growth as envisioned by your master plan. If we were to do this, the slide 3 shows what would be left would be 35 acres of upland. Once the excavation is complete, the property will be conveyed to the airport at no cost. You would then receive a piece of property that had a lake area that would be available for stormwater management, as well as 35 acres of uplands in which Gary Bain, who is one of the members of the investment group, had put together. Do we have the third slide? Is there a third slide? Had put together, would be able to do something like, for instance, put in hangars. The property, the biggest problem with this property is access to the property is questionable. They're looking at it right now through the IDA. There may be some ability to access via roads that are platted but not constructed. But the real issue is that it's very, you could circumnavigate the airport and go through the ranchettes. So it's not a location for anybody that's going to need that, where location is important and really is only practical for something that would be able to do a through the fence agreement that needs this location and doesn't mind the noise of being next to a runway and the visuals of being next to a runway, but needs that location to be able to access the airport, particularly be able to access the airport runways, which is why Gary did this conceptual that shows the hangars, and he did utilize the hangars that you have on the, well, you can see, the hangars that you have on the other side of the airport. He used the same scale to show what could fit in this location. We think this is a win-win for the airport. We would provide fill to the airport at market rates, but you would see savings because instead of hauling fill from Vermont Road, which is where most of the excavations currently are, you would be bringing it from property that's immediately adjacent. Gary did some calculations, and just on that first phase, for the wetlands at the top of the runway, you'd probably save about $200,000. If you were looking to fill those wetlands that are to the south, that could be an additional $300,000 to $400,000 in hauling cost savings for the airport. And then at the end, the airport gets the property with developable uplands, with stormwater management, so those are net developable uplands, for future development at no cost to you. Now, the airport could, of course, purchase the property and spend additional dollars to design, permit, and manage excavations on their own, but excavation is not the airport authorities or the airport's business, whereas Gary Bain manages 17 excavations. We think it's unlikely that you could design and permit as quickly, and you certainly could not do it as cost effectively. The airport has a history of partnerships like this with Gary and his associates, as well as with others, for just these types of services. We think that our proposed public-private partnership will again yield significant efficiency and monetary benefits to the airport, and we hope that you will vote to move forward with negotiations on a development agreement. I have provided you with a proposed agreement. We understand that there would need to be further negotiations, but we hope that you will vote to do that. I'm available if you have any questions, and Gary, who has just moments left, is also available. He has a contract meeting at 10:15, so he's here for just another couple of minutes. But we're available if you have any questions.
Commissioners, Commissioner Hansick.
Jerry, some questions. How long would it take you to complete the total excavation?
We're not certain because we may not be able to complete phase 2. Phase 1, we would think we could have permitted in 4 months so that it would line with the airport's schedule for needing to fill the wetlands. Phase 2 is where this group is taking all the risk. Right now, there is not access to the property. The agreement that we've proposed asks for you to provide a temporary easement across the north side of your property, because we may be able to get to some roads out there, but we're not certain if the use for hauling would be approved, or another location that we would agree upon. So there's the possibility to head south, but there are wetlands that any route to the south would have to go through. We don't know if we could get those wetland impacts approved, but the idea would be to head south and to connect to the public roads that are in the Airport Commerce Center.
Okay.
We don't know if we can do that, and so timing is difficult to ascertain.
So you mentioned that the fill would be made available to us at market rate.
Correct.
So we're not getting the fill for free.
No, you're not getting the fill for free. It would be at market rates, but your savings, the biggest cost of fill.
I understand haul costs and all
Correct.
that. Another question, and this is probably directed to Attorney, the proposed development agreement is to be signed under Southwest Engineering and Design. We do a lot of work with them. Is there any kind of a conflict with that?
I believe they have formed a new LLC, which has got 4 initials to it. I don't believe it's with Mr. Bain's exact company, so I don't know that there's a direct conflict.
Correct. There's been a separate LLC that has been formed.
That was my understanding.
Yeah. And mind you, all that's presented today is a proposal and board concurrence to move forward to develop this developers agreement and then bring it back.
Excuse me, but I don't, just as a matter of point, I think that my understanding is at this point you're about to propose a proposal to the IDA to purchase the property.
We have made the proposal to the IDA.
And has it been accepted yet?
Their board voted to get an appraisal, and we would imagine at their next meeting next month in June that the issue would come up first.
So the consideration here is an anticipation that if they can reach an agreement relative to the purchase price, would we be interested in continuing on with this discussion? Because assuming an approval by this board is a contingency in your purchase of the property.
It would be, of course, yes.
So I believe they're just looking for if there's any like virulent objection that they really don't need to go forward with the IDA. If there's like, yeah, we'll continue to consider it concept, they're willing to go forward with the IDA. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement, yeah.
Thank you.
Just a general comment, currently and historically, we've been under land constraints for development. We do. We put it, we got something to do, and we put it in there, and then that constrains something else. And from my experience, I would consider, and maybe for the board to consider, that we just buy this place ourselves.
Buy the property.
Buy the property.
Is it?
To the IDA. And we own it, and we'll deal with it in the future. I mean, the only place we're going to have to go in the future is to the east side of the airport, even when you look at some of the things that are coming along. And we're going to have a big lake in the hole there from an airport planning standpoint. And through my experience, land is very germane to airport development, and you buy every square foot you can that may become available. That's just my comment.
How much would that cost, do you know?
Is it public information on what you offered IDA, I think?
We offered IDA $100,000 because of the lack of access to the property. We think it has limited use.
And unless things have changed, and James would have to inform me of this, land acquisition by an airport, whether it's on the master plan or not, at some point in time, it becomes eligible for reimbursement in the future.
It would if we followed the
rule.
Very lengthy guidelines. We'd spend more in attorney's fees than they're offering to run through. I mean, I'm not against the idea of purchasing it. I don't think we should bother with the FAA guidelines.
Oh, no, not at this point in time.
For that kind of expenditure, but.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
I think that this is a really great opportunity for us. I think it's a win-win where we, as the airport, get to have this property at no cost. The fill that we need to fill our wetlands is literally right there. So that saves on hauling, that saves the environmental costs of hauling from who knows where, and wear and tear on our roads. I mean, it's the access is so close and so easy. I don't know anything about excavation. I don't know if Mr. Parrish has an extensive background in it, but it sounds miserable to me to get involved in a project of that magnitude. So if we can outsource it for basically just market rate for the fill and save that much on the hauling fees, I think that's a no-brainer. And I propose that we move forward with this.
Mr. Chair, you have experience in this area.
I do.
How about some feedback?
Sure.
One thing I will say is, at the end of this, we do get the land. So,
You do.
We get the land, and I think there's, and I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I think there's an opportunity to negotiate the size of the lake. I mean, obviously, they need to be profitable, but 45-acre lake, a 35-acre lake. If we buy the land and develop it, there is some portion of that land that's going to be a lake. And we would have to excavate it. And then we would have to also mitigate the wetlands that are in the lake. So there is some, some expense that they're taking from us. I would like to see a little more upland available for us in the future, but I think that's negotiable within the agreement.
Mr. Andrews, yes. I think the market rate of the fill needs to be probably, if we're going to get a lot of that fill, I think we need to have a reduced rate on that fill, because you're saving an awful lot of money on trucking. if you just move it over to runway 422 wetland there. I think maybe
We don't save the money on trucking. The way excavation works is when somebody needs fill, they send someone to the fill pit with a truck, and you are the hauler charges you for the cost of what they paid for
Sure,
the fill
understood.
plus their hauling costs. So
Sure.
we don't gain or benefit from hauling
Right.
fees.
So they just sell the dirt to trucking fill companies like Ray Smith, all those types of guys.
Mr. Blackside, I do have one question. Is this within the scope of the IDA? I mean, can the IDA sell it for this purpose?
Yes, it can, because it is for at least initially, and we anticipate that a significant portion, well, we're going to the airport at the end, so it is going to a public entity that furthers economic development goals, but at least immediately, the first phase would be to provide fill for that runway expansion, which is also within the scope of an economic development goal. So the IDA has already looked into that and has said that, yes, it is something
Okay,
that they
I just
can
wanted to confirm that first hurdle's been overcome. Thank you.
do. Yes.
Number two, I know Phil is hot right now. I mean, it's unbelievably expensive, and it's really hard to get, and you got to ship it a long way. Jim, should we reserve? I mean, phase one, it may be gone in 2 months.
I think
should we reserve
We would reserve the fill that we need.
for 422?
For the Wetland 1 project, which is the one we're initially,
Mm-hmm.
we would use almost all of Phase 1 fill in that project.
So what's there at the end of the runway, which is, what is it, anticipated for commencement by the end of next year?
That should be the end of this year.
This year?
Yeah, which and I've talked to Gary, they hope to have this permitted by the end of July.
Phase one?
Phase 1.
Phase one.
I think that's,
No, we hope
Go
to
ahead.
begin the permitting by the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
July. It's about a 4-month permitting process, but if this is something you choose to move forward with, and we can quickly come to an agreement with both the IDA and with this board, we would begin that permitting immediately, and we believe that we would have it available for the start of your construction at the end of this year.
Our project, we just got released from the FAA for Armada standards, and we will have it bid by mid-August and under grant late August.
Mr. Carr?
I would just note that I believe Ms. Waxler is simply asking for conceptual approval now. Certainly nothing's binding. She's just asking for a conceptual concept, is this something that you'd be willing to consider as we proceed forward? All of it subject to negotiation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously are not
I
expecting
just
to
want to
approve
make sure
the
that you
agreement
don't
today.
think you're getting handcuffed here into a particular agreement.
Thank you, because that was another question of mine. So personally, I see no reason why not to explore it, move forward and explore it, because we're not bound to anything. And we can make a determination what's the best avenue to go as we discuss it further on.
And the question you asked me is, Jerry, do you know if the buffer to the east is included in that remaining upland area for us? Or is that part of...
Which buffer to the east? We
You're-
would put,
you're-
because we would have to put a buffer, we would put an 8-foot berm along the eastern edge of the
Right.
excavation,
Right.
which would probably please people, the homeowners further to the east,
And
provide a
so-
little bit of noise abatement, but
And
mostly
so my
visual
point is,
abatement.
those are uplands. So is the acreage of uplands that we're getting, that we have developable, does it include that acreage
No.
for the buffer? Okay.
And I'd be concerned with the amount of time it take to bring this project all the way to the end. We're talking 5 years, 10 years.
It would-
That's based on market,
They're not
from what
even-
I understand.
And that's something else we can discuss about how much, if that's of concern, certainly something that could be put into the agreement would be a drop-dead date,
Yeah.
that we would have up until X time
And
to
then
convey
the
the property to
property
you.
then would auto convey.
I just had something that had just occurred to me. You're leaving a 35-acre lake? Is that what it is?
46.
46 acre.
Is that a bird problem for us next to the runways there?
Open water is considerably less bothersome than wetlands, and so we're getting rid of the wetlands.
Getting rid of the wetlands, and this is less troublesome.
And this would
For
be designed
aviation,
without
okay.
a littoral shelf. Normally,
Yeah.
you would have a littoral shelf that has vegetation that can sometimes attract wildlife, but this excavation, because of its proximity to the airport, would be designed without the littoral shelf.
That would be a worry for me. Thank you.
Jim, it looks like there's, what, three wetlands on the site, the lake area?
There are 3 that have been determined. We have really not, these are preliminary determinations. They have not been determined in the field.
I see. That's my questions. Commissioners?
Do we need a motion?
Yes, I would say so.
In that case, I move that we move forward on this potential development agreement with Mr. Parrish to negotiate the terms as we discussed today.
I will second that. I think we should look at it further. We're not being bound by anything. It's just, let's see what develops.
I heard two different, if I may, I heard two different things here, because as Attorney Carr said, this is, not really locking us in. It's just basically we're moving forward, but it didn't sound like that's what your motion
That was my motion. Move forward, bring it back to us.
I think move forward in concept, I believe, is how.
Yeah.
Can't move forward in concept, okay. Thanks for the clarification. All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion?
Again, I think as we move forward in the concept, I think we should also have the opposite end of it, the pros and cons of us buying the real estate.
I will make contact with the IDA.
Yeah, we need to, I think you've got to look at both sides of it.
Okay.
And I understand what she's saying and the benefits and all that, but being an old airport guy, land is nice.
Old airport.
Yeah, old is right.
Old.
That's O-L-D,
Watch
not O-L-E.
Is that an old guy or an old airport?
That's right.
Older guy or an old airport?
Both.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No, that was my worry with the lake and the birds and the wildlife and stuff like that. I didn't want to interfere with a runway expansion that crashed into giant flamingos or something.
Well, and also, I guess you got to send us up to the FAA to take a look at it.
Yep.
I mean,
And
that's another element in it.
That's a major hurdle.
I would think so, but, so, I don't have a problem going forward with investigating this, but there's a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross at this point in time, and it's not contained in the proposed document at this time.
No, and we just, like I said, when in the email I sent to you, we just received the document. There's a lot of work that's going to have to go into it to bring it to
Yeah,
final.
as long as we're not approving this document.
No, just in
Just the concept.
the concept of moving forward.
To
Thanks.
discuss it further,
Including our
in which I.
ability to purchase it ourselves.
Exactly.
This whole situation sounds familiar. But, all right, is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as presented and seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We look
Thank
forward
you,
to
Jerry.
working with you.
Mr. Parrish. The FBO hangar design build that was approved by the board, we put it out to bid. The top 3 are very close. They're here if you would like to hear from them. My recommendation would be to approve staff's rankings and let us start negotiations with the first one and then move to the second one and then the third one if necessary, but it's the board's decision.
All right, commissioners, comments? Mr. Hansick.
Just a question. Any of these existing people that you've classified 1 through 3, Are there any of our existing consulting engineers or architects involved in a joint with any of these that you remember?
I would have to pull them. I purposely did not get involved with the scoring. All three I know, and we have had discussions with them in the past. OAK is capable. They do considerable amount of airport work. Christelle has been a design build team member here at the airport in the past. And Wharton Smith we're familiar with, and they all have very competent teams, and I was impressed with. I've looked through the proposals, and I was impressed with all of them. Actually, we had 6 very good proposals.
I imagine. Are there representatives from these 3 here?
The 3 are here, and I've asked them to prepare a 5-minute speech if the board would like it, but it's the board's discretion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This would be the first time that I have gone through this, this process, and I think it would be helpful with the board's deliberations, including my own, to rank these if we could hear from the proposers.
Yeah, I agree.
Time for the song and dance.
All right, James.
Going up.
We're going to.
In rank order? Or in the order, why don't we just go in the order here? Christelle Construction.
Sure.
Good morning. I'm Howard Wheeler, the president of Christelle, and I'd like to take just a second. I'll introduce our team that we proposed for this project. First of all, OCI, the mechanical engineers. They've done 1.5 million square feet of hangars, and Studio AD has worked at this airport. And I think you heard Mr. Parrish say that our firm, Christelle, has done design build on the airport. Our project manager has built FBOs at Teterboro, and we're familiar, willing, and able to do this project for you. So's everybody else here. So what is the set aside? Right now, I mean, you heard reference in this meeting that the supply chain is completely disrupted. Nucor, which is one of the largest metal building suppliers in the country, goes under the name of Kirby and a couple others. They're taking orders right now for delivery the end of March of next year. Okay, so 8-9 month delivery time. A company called Cornerstone, which functions under the A&S brand, they are in the same 8-month delivery. What sets us apart, I think, is we have a relationship with a company that has committed to deliver the product in 16 weeks after approved shop drawings. I think that's what makes our company different than the others. Everybody here is completely capable of doing this work. Thank you.
Where are you guys based at?
Fort Myers.
Any other questions for Christelle? All right, we'll move on then to the OAK group.
I think it's Wharton Smith.
No, OAK is next on the.
Are you going to go
on the
go
yellow?
in order on the?
The yellow sheet.
Yeah, the yellow sheet.
Owning.
No.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, madam.
Placemats.
I'll let the placemats get handed out, and then I'll begin. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Abel Natali, project manager with O&M's Kimball. On behalf of our team, thank you very much for having us here today to present our credentials for why we think we feel we're the best fit for you guys to build this design-build FBO hangar. The goal of any design-build program is to be a trusted partner. And we look forward to working with your stakeholders and any end users that have participation in the program to make sure that we put a program out there that's going to fit all of your needs, not only from a budgetary standpoint, but a constructability, quality, and schedule adherence standpoint. Now, you might ask why you guys should select OAK in our team. We're considered aviation experts in the field. Our team combined has constructed over 300,000 square feet of hangar space, a lot of it here locally, but in other parts of the country as well. We've been involved in over 1,000 aviation projects and completed 8.7 million square feet of design-build projects together. Also, our team, as you see from the handout, we're all local. We have a local presence here in Southwest Florida, so we have local experts that can be here, on a moment's notice to provide guidance to the team and to the stakeholders of the project. We have a very large local subcontractor database for local subs that can participate and execute this program. We're very adept at meeting and exceeding DBE goals regularly on airport and aviation projects. In addition to that, since we're longstanding members of the community, we very much like to engage our community members and support the community organizations that have given so much to us in the past. We've sponsored the Florida International Air Show here for a number of years, been involved with the Charlotte Local Education Foundation, and actually United Way of Lee County as well. Now, we understand your program requirements. They're looking at about a 14,000 square foot space, including office buildings, or an office space, and some restrooms. As it pertains to hangar construction, there are many different components and systems that interplay there, so we look forward to vetting those options. There are things to consider here that I've listed. Obviously, the door opening heights, the different types of door systems, the flooring systems, fire suppression systems. There are many different components there that could affect the overall budget. We look forward to programming those very early on and having those early discussions to give you guys as many options as possible to make those informed decisions to fit the program for your need. Basically, to conclude, we'd love to be your trusted partner on this one and be a part of your design build team for the FBO hangar. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, Abel. Gary Kruger with Schenkel Schultz Architects. Our firm, one of the primary functions of our firm has been aviation over the last 20 years. Schenkel Schultz has completed over 500 aviation projects of varying descriptions, FBOs, custom office buildings, as well as hangars, multiple multi-use hangars. And one of the most recent projects we finished is the Page Field hangar, 22,500 square foot pre-engineered metal building, steel building, with a combination of a fire sprinkler system as well as a low-level, high-expansion foam fire suppression system. We're very versed in the design of hangars, and we've also worked repeatedly over the last 25 years of being in South Florida with OAK on a number of projects, and look forward to working with them and continuing that relationship for your project. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
Gary, real quick on your menu, that top hanger, where's that at?
That's the Page Field hangar on the left. Yes, the first
The
one that's
one
on the
on
lower
the very top.
The very top one is the recent one. The one below is the one we did about 5 years ago that has solar panels on the roof.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on then to, if there's no questions from anybody, we'll move on to number 3 on the yellow sheet, the Wharton Smith, Inc.
Well, good morning. Before we go any further, I'd just like to thank you for your time and consideration given here today. We're truly excited for this project and at the potential to be your partner for this exciting venture. I'm Tom Irasi, Area Manager with Wharton Smith Construction, and behind me is Mark Kistler, Vice President with Aviation for Michael Baker International. And with the time that we have here today, we really wanted to focus in on what separates us from the pack, essentially why you should choose us for the management services on this project. And so with that, I would start with the company. We're a local builder who's been in business for 36 years with over $1 billion in bonding capacity. So in the sense of having a well-qualified, financially stable firm, we certainly check the box as far as that is concerned. And you can rest easy knowing that all those hard-earned dollars are remaining right here in the local economy. Now, as good as that sounds, to make things even better is our entire operations staff that is proposed for this project is based right here in the county, lives, plays, and works here. It serves on a number of boards, including the Charlotte County United Way we heard from earlier. And so not only that, but they've worked together on projects, including a project right here on the airport campus with Michael Baker serving as the architect. So we're going to bring all that familiarity and great team chemistry to hit the ground running on this project, which is in the way of a design-build project. Really what you want to do, you want to accelerate through design and get to construction in order to hit that schedule running as quickly as possible. So no wasted dollars on learning curve with our team that's been selected. Collectively, our proposed team has built over 40 projects right here in Charlotte County borders, most of them directly for Charlotte County. So with that comes extensive experience with that permitting process. And if you can, I'm sure you realize the permitting headaches that can result on projects of this sort. We certainly have the way to navigate through that project with many relationships inside that office group in order to, again, accelerate through that design process and get to construction as quickly as possible. Karen Huff, our proposed project manager for the project, actually worked for the county directly for over 9 years as an operations coordinator, so a lot of those relationships are still intact. Her and Doug Whistler, our proposed superintendent for the project, just completed a renovation and addition to the community development building downtown that houses all of the building officials, plan reviewers, and inspectors. So they certainly are intimately acquainted with all the people that work inside that office and know how to, again, navigate that process and accelerate us through that sometimes headache-full arena. Another point I would like to mention is everyone's well aware of the material and labor shortage that's wreaking havoc on the industry right now. So an additional benefit that Wharton Smith brings to help get around that is, in addition to the general contractor's license, we also have a mechanical license, a plumbing license, a pollution license, a utility underground license, and over 40 in-house craftsmen that we can call upon in a moment's notice to self-perform various works in the event of a subcontractor failure in order to help maintain that schedule and budget for this project. So we really like to think of our team as the best of both worlds in that you have a qualified contractor who's willing to step in, well-versed in FBO and design and build work, and can help coordinate with up to 2 or 3 other contractors for other projects that are going to be going on site at the same time. But also with the stability of having Michael Baker on the team who knows your program goals and can see out that overall vision. And I'd like to turn it over to Mark right now to speak a little bit more on that.
Thanks, Tom. And for many of you who know me, Michael Baker's been the lead consultant for the General Aviation Center. Of course, this FBO hangar will be sitting right next to the GA terminal building, which we've designed, right next to the ramp that we've designed, and right, built into the parking lot and everything else that's going on with the site that we've been currently managing with your staff in order to help get that and bring that to fruition. From a continuity standpoint, you're not going to have one of the other teams be able to provide that same story from start to finish, and this is just another piece of the puzzle that's going in on the north side of the airport. From an efficiency standpoint, we already have the information. We already know what the existing site is, and this project, as it's being built, is dealing with a moving, living project that's out there now. We already know what that project's supposed to end up looking like. We already have those files. We already have that data in our systems. So those are things that we can that we're bringing to the table that help speed getting this project done and getting those approved shop drawings in order to get that building ordered. Prices are going up, as has been mentioned, and so it's something that we will be able to bring to the table for both the authority and getting this thing delivered. Also from an efficiency standpoint, because we have that knowledge, we can also have that. Reduces our cost to get to it. We're not starting from scratch. A lot of the permitting things, a lot of things have to be done. It's modifications to those things. We're not having to start that from scratch. So there's a schedule savings to you, there's a cost savings to you from that aspect. And lastly, as we are working for you now, you are our client. And as this project moves forward, our vision is to make sure that you, as the ultimate client, gets that piece of the puzzle that's going to fit not only with what's being built out there now, but also sets you up for what's going to be coming down the line. And we've worked with those things, both with Kaylee and developing the renderings for the AVX facility or the complex on that side, understand what that vision needs to be. And we'll continue to work with you guys as we move forward. And with that, Tom, you want? That's it for us.
Thanks.
Tom, you got any capacity left on that bonding limit?
Oh, yeah. Plenty.
Okay, do you? And Tom, of the 40, I'm a little bit late, I apologize. Your 40 projects for Charlotte County, what's your your best known, I guess?
Most recently, we just finished completing the District 3 office for the sheriff. That's a well-known project, evidence building, impound, and administration office. And we're currently starting the airport rescue fire. That's going to be a namesake project for the state as a whole. It's a really unique project that is going to have many visitors coming along and be great advertisement for the county once completed.
Do you know your site civil, who it is?
What's that?
Do you know who your site civil is?
It's underway. We're getting there.
You're getting there?
Yep.
You know who your surveyor is yet? No, not yet?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Thank
you. Mr. Hansick.
This is a question for James. Just briefly, what were the items under tab 3? Because that's kind of where I know. Just roughly.
It's
got the same question.
The team and how
that was tab 3 was
the team and how they've worked together in the past.
Jim, which team is local presence?
We really don't
have
that. The FAA frowns upon the local presence score. Obviously, you've heard from them. Okay. I am comfortable with all. I'm comfortable with all 6. But these are the top 3.
Commissioner.
This is a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Parrish, I noticed that there's no score for the rates charged.
Please.
And I understand that that is something that's negotiated after the fact. If you can't come to an agreeable rate with the top ranked, then you move on to the next. Is that an FAA requirement that we're not allowed to consider that, or is that just a choice that we as an airport authority made to not consider that?
So there's 2 ways of doing a design build proposal. We could pay somebody to get us to 20-30% and then have them give us a cost, or we can negotiate the cost. So we know what we want, but we really don't know how much that's going to impact the surrounding area, how much the fill, how much. There's too many unknowns to ask for a price.
If the price is, sorry.
No,
I mean, we have a budget that we've given
I was going to say,
them.
if it's not within the budget, and you bring it back to them and they say, we can't work.
Well, that's the great thing about design.
What happens then?
We could go to the next firm. I mean, the fact is, right now, we're working against time. Every month, unfortunately, prices are going up. I hope there's a peak and they'll start coming back down. But
I can.
Yes, Commissioner.
It's kind of interesting. Number one, this is not a huge building.
No.
It's a small hangar. And you guys have spent a lot of time in ranking these on the screen now as 1, 2, and 3. And I see some benefit from Wharton Smith, and they're also close. I'm kind of curious why you've taken 3 and put in the 1. Is there any major thing?
3 and
yeah, on the agenda, you've
random.
ranked. Oh, this is random.
That is random, like it says, in no particular order. They were put on the agenda.
Well, I can't see that
That's
part.
If you read, it says
You need
that
bigger
way.
letters. Yeah, I got it.
I think it's alphabetical, personally.
I'd like to see you go ahead the way you got them ranked. if you got to justify why you selected somebody, I mean, you can start there with the ranking, and if you're not happy with Owens Kimball, you go down to Warden Smith.
James, GD, is that Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Was he involved?
Yes. He has extensive experience in
Mhm.
hangar construction and this, so I put him on KH as the manager of the FBO, who's going to be spending all his time in and around this hangar, and Mr. Reidenauer is the project manager for all our airport projects. So they are the three most involved. Like I said, I think all three are highly qualified, and we would benefit from any one of them. Someone has to be number one.
Who had the heaviest proposal package? We should throw that out. That's a whole way of doing it. The heavy one that hits the ground first wins.
OAK definitely had the most paper involved.
This is a tough one, but I mean we have to rely on staff. I mean we have a great team. I've helped out with these rankings before and went through all the documents. It takes a lot of time and a lot of reading, and I think we really have to rely on staff. The Wharton Smith team. I know Mark Kistler is doing a great job for us on some of our other projects, and you kind of hate not to have him involved, but I think we need to rely on our ranking, and if we can't work things out, then we just move on to number two, which you may end up with Mark Kistler. I'm not sure. But anyways, any other comments?
And I'd go ahead and make a motion that we proceed with negotiation on the design-build concept with the rankings as presented by staff and as discussed among board members. That's Owens, Ames Campbell, Wharton Smith, and Christel Construction.
Jim, does that give you what you need, that motion?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I second that.
We have a second from Commissioner Andrews. Any further discussion? Commissioner Oliver, did that answer all your questions?
It did, thank you. And I want to thank you all for coming out and presenting.
All right, that being said, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Next time we'll have enough seats for everyone to sit down. We are. That's all these people show up. Next item?
Yeah, James, next item.
Get rid of the chairs and make everybody.
Everybody stand well.
Reserved for Commissioner Copeland.
So there was a former director, 4 directors ago, that his policy was let the public sit in uncomfortable seats. We have more comfortable seats than those. The next item is a peer-to-peer, person-to-person, however you want to call it, vehicle sharing policy. It is just another policy that we need to put in the book so that we have the authority and the ability to regulate right now Turo, but what we expect to be multiple peer-to-peer rental car, however you want to call them, sharing services. So right now, we know that Turo is operating at the airport. They advertise that they're operating at the airport. They sneak around by saying you pick up your car at the FBO. That's still not valid. We have found their cars in the parking lot with the keys in them. So we need to have the authority to regulate them, and that's what this policy does. This policy is a very close copy of the Tampa policy, which was one of the first in the state and has been the framework for the majority of the policies that put in place.
You might want to explain how that works for.
Oh God, I wish I knew. So you go online and you rent a car from somebody, and they don't call it a rental, they call it sharing, and you pay them $300 a day to share their Lamborghini or $50 a day to share their Kia. They drop it off in the parking lot, and
you could rent your car out.
Yeah, it's a sharing fee.
It's a sharing fee. So this is,
Except that you get to do it directly through Enterprise, right?
well, and that's our real concern, is that Enterprise is now kind of teaming with Turo, and they may want to start just bringing cars to the airport instead of renting space, paying a concession fee. This locks that up. So.
It's not a good thing.
Well, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll move approval of the person-to-person vehicle sharing policy
As presented.
as presented.
Very good. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Capolo. Very good. Any further discussion? I see that Darrell Carr's signature's on the bottom of that document also.
Well, he was
Instrumental.
in formulating it. Amy was instrumental in preparing it.
Nice.
Is it from Tampa? We got to pay for this?
No, it's free. And we also are going, so they are the first airport in the nation to sign a contract with Turo, and I have that contract in hand now. Turo has contacted us, and we will be moving forward with that in the near future.
I do struggle with this term, person-to-person or peer-to-peer. To me, I don't understand why they would call it peer-to-peer, although that seems to be the term of art most people adopt. To me, it's more person-to-person. So we struggled with that a little bit, so it's really irrelevant. It's a term of art as to which one we're going to use. It started out as a peer-to-peer document. I think it's more of a person-to-person platform, but we'll modify it accordingly as we need to.
Yeah, we want to make sure it encompasses all entities trying to call themselves peer-to-peer. And I'll tell you where this really has gotten convoluted is now it's not as big of an issue, but the used car dealers were using their used cars with dealer tags to go peer-to-peer, which is, a violation of 4 or 5 things. So this just gives us the authority to regulate it.
Attorney Carr, I think peer-to-peer, the word vehicle, I think brings it home. That if that was peer-to-peer computer or peer-to-peer server or something like that. But I think the word vehicle in there kind of describes it. But
Well, noted that the agreement, as I first saw it, was entitled peer-to-peer. I think that title still exists. However, when I was doing my evaluation of the document, I thought it was more of a person-to-person sort of concept. All I'm just saying it's a term of art in the internet right now as to, like, they consider VRBO a peer-to-peer platform. However, I think that's going to expand where the platform itself is really not even there, and it becomes more person-to-person. For example, if you use what do you call that thing where you get a car, an Uber, that is considered a peer-to-peer platform. However, what happens is that people will get a regular customer outside of Uber, and then they become person-to-person over there. And it's just them contacting their buddy, say, hey, I'm coming south, can you pick me up and take me there? So I'm trying to be more global in my concept.
And person-to-person may not work because it could be corporate to person.
I think it's defined as an entity, a person-to-person.
Okay.
Again, terms of art that are evolving in our lifetime, Mr. Hurst.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm done arguing.
Developing and evolving in our lifetime.
All right, very good. We have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. James.
External auditing services, we went out for RFP in 2016. Commissioner Oliver has asked that we assemble an RFP for external auditing services at this time. We are set to expire at the end of this year for services for this year, so that would include the audit of this year's financials, which would go into 2022, and I'm having a hard time with 2021 already because 2020 was a blur. So we have prepared it based on the last RFP that's gone out. We are inquiring if we can add some language of not to exceed amounts, and so some of the challenges are if we have grants in excess of a number, then we have to do a single point. If now we have to do a PFC audit. So we're going to look at the RFP as presented today. It is a draft, but would the board like to go out for services for external auditing, keeping in mind that we have had Tuscan for many years, and he does an excellent job.
Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think that this airport authority has done an excellent job of increasing transparency. Today, we're being broadcast on YouTube and keeping all of our meetings open and transparent that way. And another good way of increasing the public trust and increasing transparency is to have regular RFPs where we go out and allow interested parties to present to us. I think that Tuscan and Associates has done a phenomenal job for this airport over the years, and this is nothing against them. They may very well be chosen again, but I think that it is just a good practice as a board to go out and to go through the exercise, evaluate proposers. And so I would move that this board we establish an auditor selection committee pursuant to Florida Statute 218.391 and go through establishing the factors. And as one of the factors, I would include compensation. It would not be the sole basis of our decision or a primary factor, but under 218.391 subsection 3D, we're allowed to consider compensation as part of that. And so to set, hourly rates, not to exceed fees, or, if something comes up and we have this extra, like we were discussing earlier, this HB 1103 imposes new auditing requirements. Obviously, that's going to take more time, increase the fees. But so just have them come back to us and allow all interested parties to present. I think it's important.
Expiration of our current bookkeeper is June, you say?
It is the end of this fiscal year for this year's audit.
Okay, I see.
So he'd be working through early 22 until his presentation.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments?
I've known Jeff for a number of years being here, and I've always found him to be absolutely superb in his work. And I'm not going to go along with this because I would like to keep Jeff Tuscan. He knows us. He's given us phenomenal, good advice. He's given us good presentations, and I trust him, and I think that's important. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Robert?
I can see both sides of the story. Also, I don't think you change, how does that go? You don't change horses in midstream. And I think our staff has been happy with him. I am looking at our CFO, and if there were issues, I think he would pop up, and I'm sure the FAA would also have an issue. I don't know, I think I'll have to wait until you call for the vote to see how things go.
Jim, an audit selection committee, would we have the capability of providing that quality of people like we have in the land development area?
Well, what we would, the audit selection committee is the board, and the board gets the contracts and reads gets the proposals, reads the proposals, and makes a determination. Staff does not get involved with that. Though if you wanted to have meetings outside of the regular board meetings, they'd have to be noticed and in the public and that.
So I'm not saying we don't have the people that are capable, because I think we have some of the best bookkeeping people around. But
I think as I understand, if you have a committee, that committee actually functions just like the board.
Exactly like the board.
I mean, you got to advertise and
so if it's
public meetings and all that.
And I
Besides,
would.
you don't have anything else to do.
Well, that is, we will function as the board requests on this matter. We have 16 other RFPs in the works. So, if I don't mind putting one out. If the board is going to select the same person, which it did last time, we could ask him to come and make a presentation and talk about the limits of and the numbers in the future. Each RFP takes about 200 man hours, so that is multiple person years, and we have a very limited staff. So if it is we have already put this together, so this is pretty close to being ready to go out. We do have some questions out right now with Mr. Tuscan to see, as he is also on the special districts board, to see how we can do some other things. But he is, like you've said, we've worked with him for a long time, and he is very good. There are other people out there that may or may not be as good or as cheap, inexpensive. I don't know what the word is. So it's the discretion of the board. Staff is ready and willing to go whichever direction you ask.
Yes, sir. Question of Sandy. Are there any major changes with Gatsby? No. So it's pretty much the same. There's no new.
This year, yeah. There's some changes to leasing. There's some changes to grant auditing. We are on top of that. We just purchased some new software that's Gatsby compliant for our lease management. But yeah, monitor went off for a second.
It's been going on and off.
They're new.
All right. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I agree with the sentiments of both Commissioner Hansick and Commissioner Coppola. Mr. Tuscan's been with us quite a while. He knows the airport. He knows the model. I mean, he understands, and he's doing a fine job. And I, too, am not necessarily in agreement to change horses in midstream, as Commissioner Hansick had said. So when it comes up for a vote, we'll...
Mr. Chair, if I may, the contract with Mr. Tuscan ends at the end of 2021. Is that correct? So this would be a new contract for beginning of 2022. It would not be changing horses in midstream. It would be, the end of our 6-year contract. And so just allowing others to present doesn't mean that we would change, but it allows others the opportunity. Auditors pick up on different things. One might care about travel, the other might care about, some other finer, point of contracts. They just have different things that they would pick up on. And in most other lines of business, you do change auditors every 5 years. In nonprofits, you change every 5 years. It's best practices. So it's not necessarily giving up somebody that, we think is doing a great job. We can always go back to him. But I think that it is worth at least exploring the opportunity and giving others the chance to propose to us. And again, in the interest of openness and transparency, we're a governmental entity. I think sometimes it can get into, we like this person, they're doing a great job, we've been around them, and to the public, they don't see it that way. They see it as showing favoritism to one group over another. And so I think that's why you have to have that open and transparent process.
There may be a definition problem in midstream. I define midstream as the period between now and 2030. So I don't know what Commissioner Andrews defines it as, but it could be a problem right there.
We started with him. He's continued on. We've selected him once before.
Last time. Yeah.
All right. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion.
I find him to be very accessible. If you have a question or a problem or you want an answer, he's always there. I've never seen anything that I could even question about his performance as our auditor. I think he's terrific, smart man, nice man, and always, like I say, accessible if you have a question. He's even given us schooling, actually. Were you here when they had that little schooling thing going?
I think I was.
Yeah. So that's just my opinion. I would like to stay with Jeff Tuscan. Is it my voice?
Oh, no, I didn't understand. He had a what thing going?
He had a schooling. He had
School
a
is-
lessons and schooling.
Maybe he gave us a lesson at the podium.
Yeah. We
Oh.
went down to his office in Fort Myers several years ago.
Okay.
No
At
sunshine
expense,
violation.
Just get there, and, I mean, it was interesting to see his operation, too.
All right, thank you for that, Commissioner. All right, we have any further discussion from anybody? All right, not hearing any.
Mr. Chairman, one other point. Since this thing is expiring at some point in time, if you stay with Tuscan, you're going to have to renew the contract.
Yeah, generally, so he submits
Does he have
a
automatic?
one-year renewal letter at the end of each audit. I did not sign it this year, anticipating this, so he is.
Any further discussions? All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second from anybody?
I'll state the motion again.
The motion was to establish an auditor selection committee and accept proposals from those interested in providing a financial audit to the Charlotte County Airport Authority.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a second on the floor? In absence of a second, the motion fails. All right, how do we direct Mr. Parrish to proceed?
Well, I'll work with Mr. Tuscan on a continuation. Well, for this year, it's already in his contract, but Sandy and I will work with him and get some, maybe some dollar numbers to satisfy some of our questions. We sent him an email this morning on that, so. All right, the next item is the Service Plaza proposal. We put that out for RFP. We had multiple inquiries into the Service Plaza. We got the one that I've been negotiating with for almost a year and a half now. They're the only ones that responded, even though multiple people were upset that I was negotiating with a single entity. So the numbers are a monthly rent of $1,500 a month, 2% of gross revenues, and 2 cents a gallon. And they are currently in negotiation for a national chain restaurant to be co-located in the facility. This would be on the corner of Piper and Viking in an area that is on our master plan as commercial development. It would also incorporate our cell lot, which would kind of get people into the restaurant and convenience store to make money that we would then collect 2%. I would like approval to move forward with lease negotiations and bring the final lease back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of staff finalizing the lease with Daybreak Market Plaza Street Partners, LLC.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Oliver. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second from Commissioner Andrews. James, I have a question.
Sure.
Can the national chain restaurant gross sales, can we get a piece of that
Oh,
action?
we do. We get a gross.
So that gross is figured into the gross of the
Yes.
revenue of the whole operation?
Yes.
Okay. It's also at 2%?
Yes.
And the location is where we looked at the last time,
Across from
coming
the,
right into the
yeah,
airport.
where that empty piece of land is carved out of the parking lot.
And you have a rendering of what this thing would look like?
They've provided renderings in the past of typical
haven't-
stations.
Yeah.
They will, based on the size and the shape of this, it'll be a specific design.
Ugly or?
Well, I mean, you look at the 7-Eleven down the street, at the Wawa, all those are new convenience stores. It'll be, I would assume, similar to that. It'll be a national chain.
Kathleen, we did see a rendering
renderings.
last time we
It's more or
discussed
less the
this.
same as that we all complained about. No.
Yeah, well, not
Very
all of us. Not all of us. Jim, does ECAP, hang on a second, Robert, ECAP, does that have to meet the county commercial design standards, do you know? I don't think so.
It does for landscaping.
Okay.
So the 7-Eleven was built in ECAP, so it is a.
Okay. Robert?
Okay, just some comments. I understand the importance of developing non-aeronautical revenues, which this would basically be. Have you guys run an estimate of what you anticipate the annual revenue would be? I know it's not, surely they've come up with an estimate.
I'll work with them to get that put that in the lease, because we'll have MAG requirements in the lease.
Okay, because I think it's important to know what that is. I mean, if you're going to get $3,000 a month, I wouldn't be interested in $3,000 a month at that location. As you all know, that I let it go this far, but I don't think putting a gas station at the main entrance to the airport is a aesthetic thing to do and causes some traffic problems. In addition, on the way out here this morning, I counted there are 8 service stations between 41 and Piper Road, and I don't see the demand for this thing at this. I just don't see it. That's my opinion.
People said that about the airport too.
I understand. Put it across the street.
I think it needs to be on, I mean, as a person who used to do gas station location design, that is the corner it needs to be.
Well, I agree. That's prime location. If I was going to put one in, that'd be a place I'd put it. But
I mean, that's where the rental car returns will fill up. That's where,
But the one thing, if I may, the one thing the other gas stations don't have is a national restaurant chain, which is a draw.
Well, no, Wawa does, and
Oh, they have their own,
and the one's got that Arby's in it. So,
yeah, that's up, yeah.
The truck, what is that one? It's on the right side.
Yeah, there's an Arby's off to the side.
Yeah.
There.
And there's a half a dozen other fast food places.
There's
on the way.
McDonald's up there. There's.
I just, this site has been in our master plan since we developed it as a service plaza. So, I mean, that's why we went out and marketed it to service plaza developers.
You've had that site
Yes.
designated
Yes.
all this time?
Yeah, but master plans can change.
He's only been registered in Florida for a couple of months. Did you know that? Is that a problem? Maybe our attorney, is that a problem or not?
I'm sorry, who has been registered?
This corporation that wants to.
Daybreak Market.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for things to be formed as a single-purpose entity for the purposes of making a proposal. I suspect that may be assigned in some way, but it's probably just a single-purpose entity created on Sunbiz to make his proposal.
Okay. So that's not encouraging.
I don't think
that's not unusual.
It's not unusual.
I mean, not for something like this. It would be unusual if a person that was going to build a mess hangar had just formed 2 months ago, but for this process and a negotiation, I don't think it's necessarily a concern, my concern.
Yeah, I'd like to, before you make a final determination on this thing, I'd like to see the final document with all
the
stuff in there.
I mean, this is, all I'm asking for is approval to bring
negotiate
a final lease to the board.
I don't have any.
And bring it to the board for approval, correct?
For final approval, that's fine.
Jim, quick question. I'm having some math problems here, but is that an accumulative $350,000, that cap? And then everything above that is 2%?
Yeah. Annually.
Okay, so it is annually. So there's no way they can say, well, this month we're under 350, so we don't know anything.
No, and we
It's
have,
cumulative.
That has to be defined, that's one of the things.
Yes.
Okay, so you're on top of that.
I just wish they put it somewhere else, location-wise. I don't have an objection to it being on the airport, just the location is going to be.
That, you want to go convenience for the passenger and the user, and that is in my opinion, as a site development engineer, and Jim can back me up if he agrees, that is the ideal location similar to Nashville, similar to RSW, who have much larger entrance roads, but the location is right at the entrance.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I said earlier. We have land constraints, and we just keep putting this stuff in and putting it in.
We carved this out for this use, but obviously we can.
You?
I think it's a great idea. I pushed for it last time we talked about it.
Let's see what the final document looks like.
It'd be a traffic problem.
Especially if we have
With
an
renderings.
alternate, income source here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Well, income, yeah, I'm all for that. I just,
Depends on what the income is, too.
I'm thinking of the aesthetics of it.
Well, if they do $5 million, it's $100,000. We could do a little bit with $100,000. If they do $5 million in gross revenues, which probably isn't out of the question, we'd have to ask Commissioner Tiseo. But at 2%, that's $100,000. That's one stream.
Plus it
of the
develops
proposal.
our cell phone lot, which we're in desperate need of.
Are his gasoline prices in line with the area
I'm
that
sure
he's
they
in?
have to be.
Nobody knows.
It'd be a great location for the peer-to-peer vehicles.
Well, that'll be handled here.
We'll let Mr. Carr police the lot nightly on the way home.
Get the cameras in.
Eat my Arby's while I'm doing it.
Why is Attorney Carr gaining so much weight? We let him patrol the service station and now he's out of shape. Anyways, okay, we have a motion on the floor, and I think we have a second.
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Make sure we get some renderings for Commissioner Capola.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I will get those. The next item is the Faber-Co and Gregg proposal to us. We agreed at a previous meeting over a year ago to allow them to build external to the terminal, but within the terminal footprint, a bar. Due to COVID, they have been behind schedule on this, and they're now asking us to do a lease modification with them that would let us basically do a build-to-suit. They would pay us back over 60 months at an interest rate of 1.5%. Before I enter into this agreement, I want to get the board's concurrence. Attorney Carr and I will be presenting them with a lease modification that would allow us to take all of their pieces, the new one plus their existing, if they fail to make payments. But Faber is very excited about moving forward. They have contractors in place. They are ready to go. So,
Well, basically, we're financing.
we're financing for 5 years at 1.5%.
Are we allowed to do that?
Basically we're building it for them and they're paying us back.
FAA is okay with that? Us
Yeah,
using
you can
funds
do
for
that.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're currently making less than 0.5% on our money in the bank, so.
So this would be an interest.
Well, as I understand it, it's a build-out of a certain area and modifications of the current area, and you would enter into a consolidated build-to-suit lease to do all of that.
Yes.
Is how it's being.
Yeah, they're pulling the bar out of their existing area to expand food service, and they're putting a new bar in outside that overlooks the ramp.
Okay. How long they been with us?
Since we opened the new terminal.
Oh.
But it would all be consolidated under one lease. There wouldn't be a separate lease for one area. Our proposal would be to consolidate it all under one lease as a build-to-suit.
Okay. Well, that makes a difference. Okay.
Jim, what's the term on, at the end of the 5-year period? What do we,
That lease is already, what, you're talking about Daybreak or?
no, that's what I'm looking at. I should have looked at the cover sheet there, but, yeah, Daybreak.
Okay.
Daybreak is the gas station.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Faber-Co and Gregg would then enter into their normal agreement with us, which is a percentage of gross sales.
Okay.
And it's what, it's 25 and
I would
24?
I would have to look that up. But, I mean, those terms have already been approved by the board. This is just a modification to their current lease to do this build-to-suit.
So there's no extension on the time?
We've already extended their time on the original agreement.
All right, we have where are we at, James? Do we have a motion?
You need a motion in a second.
Yeah, very good.
I make a motion that Board approves CEO Parrish to execute lease modification with Faber & Co. and Greg Inc. based on proposal letter as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously.
The next item is, we had 2 vehicles in our previous budget that I pulled out because I was not sure about income for the year. We are doing better than expected, so I'd like to put them back in to replace our 2008 Ford Explorer and 2008 Taurus, both one over 130,000, one over 140,000 miles.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for approval.
I second the motion.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Oliver.
Just a quick question. Do we have a vehicle retirement policy, like we replace after X number of years or X number of miles?
No, it's, we have, prior to me, we had vehicles from the 70s. I like to keep vehicles for about 130,000 miles.
I mean, that's a baby.
Not the way they're used on an airport. Every one of these, well, the Ford Taurus does not go off-road, but they're used for fence line inspections. They're used to get to construction sites. They're well maintained, but take a significant amount of abuse. And we will sell these.
I was going to say, well, is it worth more to sell them or to keep them around for replacement parts or for other uses?
If we had a spare, I would, but there's very little compatible from car to car these days. So.
Isn't that a good idea, though?
Yeah.
James, didn't we just buy 2 vehicles from one of the car rental companies that we needed one and we got 2 for the price of one?
We didn't, because that didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, that was my goal when they were going to sell everything cheap, but then the bankruptcy court said no.
Yeah.
And now they wish they hadn't sold them. And
Very good. All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, let's see if we can get through these. Runway 422 rehabilitation and reconstruction amendment to the contract number 2 with Kimley Horn. This is work that has been done already for the submittal of a mod to standards that the FAA told us we didn't need, and then came back and said we did need. We did get the mod to standards approved on Friday. So we are moving forward with the design, but this was the monies required to submit the mod to the FAA, and honestly, I couldn't have done it for that.
Board's ready for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the board approve the CEO to execute contract amendment with Kimley Horn in the amount of $14,501 as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion of approval and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is building, it's not 207, building 610, which will replace 615. We finally renumbered all these buildings. And 606, which will be the next T hangar. Contract, we went out to bid. Stellar Development was the lowest responsive bidder at $6,078,920, well within our estimate. So we are requesting that the board approve us signing a contract and moving forward with Stellar Development to build 24 T hangars and the 10 box hangars on the ramp.
24.
T hanger.
And how, 10
Yes, 10 box hangars.
boxes?
I'll make a motion to approve the Stellar Development contract for the construction of aircraft hangars, an amount of $6,078,920, and make a comment that bid schedule number 1 has only taken 7 years to get there. Those are the T hangars.
And I think we are down to 24. We went through 24 to get one T hangar rented. So
You have capacity now.
we will have capacity once we build these, but I'm glad we can get, let's
We've got
be
the
honest.
money to do it,
We have the money, and this will be the largest, with the FBO, with the ramp, with the hangar, with these hangars, we will have spent a little over $25 million on general aviation. So that's thanks to the airlines, thanks to grants that we've gotten from the airlines, and thanks to the money that we've been able to put in the bank.
How long does something like this take to build all this? Would you say?
I would say 6 months in normal times, probably well over a year, year and a half.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second, I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is a change order, number 2, to the contract with Ajax Paving. The change order amount, we finally got it back, is actually $341,514.97. It is also an addition of 41 days, I believe, or increase of 62 days to the contract. What you see on the screen is what they're building. It's the extension of Taxiway Echo to the end of 927, which has been a promise of mine for 4 years, and it's finally coming to fruition. They're doing it at the contract prices for the ramp, so it's much cheaper than if it was a standalone project.
Jim, I see on that PDF, is the trucking company still in operation up there?
They're on I believe it's month-to-month lease, yes.
All right. Ready for a motion?
I'll make the motion, obviously. To approve change order, is there a number on this change order?
2.
Change order 2 in the amount of $341,514.97 to Ajax Paving for the extension of Taxiway E.
Very good. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I note that why he's got that picture up there.
Mhm.
Thank
up?
you. You see the blue up there? Those are where the hangars are going that we just approved.
Well, we approved the 24 and the 60 by 60s. The 50 by 50s are yet to be designed, but we hope to change order this contract.
It just gives you an idea where it is, and this is the 600 series. Those are all T hangars.
Yeah.
In the last motion, did you put a not to exceed? I didn't hear that.
The amount was the
I
change
did
orders
get
in there.
Exact amount.
Mr. Parrish.
Oh, next is Blackbird Aviation Group. So Blackbird Aviation, do we have their pictures, Amy, or not? No, they're in your packet. Blackbird Aviation is proposing to lease, and we have presented them with a draft lease. Almost the remaining land, almost all the remaining land in the AVX area to build an MRO and multiple other structures. They are paying our latest fair market value for the land. They're paying a percentage of fair market value for the ramp space that they will have a modified exclusive use of. We will have exceptions to that. They are building the ramp space. They are building the building. We will ultimately, and it's in our plan anyway, build the taxiway out to runway 422 and taxiway Alpha. They will have to proceed in the next 118 months with planning documents, with FAA approval for the environmental assessment and design of the hangar. At the end of that, we propose giving them an exception to the first 18 months lease. Then the next 18 months, they will pay 50% of the lease value, and then at the end of those 18 months, they would go to 100%. If they fail to move forward within 3 years, we take everything back. So I wanted to put all that out in front of you so you understand the concept. We would almost immediately have to go into a master planning phase, at least a small one on the east side of the airport, because this would take up all of our land, which is a great thing.
So we're going to discuss it first.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, it says board definition.
Okay, apparently this has been out there for 6 months, and we just found out about it last week. This is a great thing for the airport if it can be pulled off. I do have some concerns. The location will, we're just, as Mr. Parrish indicated, we're just spending $25 million to develop a general aviation area. This will curtail any future expansion of that area because you're taking all the land to the west of it. It's a huge building, which is neat. It'd be 1 million to 1.5 million square feet from what I read, and the ramp that all goes with it. My concern is I don't know who these people are. I don't know where the money's coming from. I think we should take this and schedule a study session on it, have the principals come here, explain who they are. I tried to find Blackbird Aviation Group on the internet, and there is no Blackbird Aviation Group. Now, that's not saying they're not there. There is a Blackbird Aviation LLC, which is 2 guys in an airplane out of Naples.
Yeah, that's
I did the same thing, found the same results.
So what I'm saying, there's a lot of unknowns in it, and this is a huge step for us. And it'd be great for the airport if we get an MRO facility. I think we have to be careful on dotting the I's, crossing the T's, but I don't know who these guys are.
Yeah. And they
have we run a Dun & Bradstreet on them or anything?
Well, it is. They do have a website, and it was hard to find, but it's there.
Send us the link.
I can. I agree with you. I think before we finalize anything, I would want them to give us some site planning documents, what it's going to look like, where it's going to go, a schedule, and all that'll be included. I just want to make sure the board's comfortable with me moving forward with this.
I don't have any problem with that, subject to the details of all this stuff coming out. I mean, we're taking a big chunk of the airport on North End. We just, it's kind of interesting. I know what you're saying. We need to move forward with master planning the east side of the airport. Well, we just give 80 acres probably to the IDA, which is on the east side of the airport, and so all those things have to be, as I'm concerned, analyzed from a policy decision. I mean, that thing will go in there, and there may not be any need for any further general aviation development in our lifetime, or at least our tenure on the board. So you'll look at it. But good jobs. You got the vergence of the A&P school, which could all feed into that. These guys, they got a customer. They got an Airbus. I'm sure they're going to do Airbuses, is what I'm guessing.
So this is Blackbird Aviation is a single person. but I've met with them and their partners that are bringing in the aircraft. I agree with you completely. We ought to have them come to a board meeting and make a major presentation.
They need to be vented, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
And they were brought to us through the
EDP?
EDO, Economic Development Office. So they we'll sit down with them and go through all the vetting. But I don't want to move forward to something like this if the board is not in some sort of concurrence with it. So,
I think to continue with my comments, I think we need more information. I don't have any problem going further with it, you know, but going further means we need more detail in my mind. I mean, this is huge. You know how big a building of 1 million square feet is? It's huge. Go take a look at
also had a guy
Walmart.
contact us yesterday that wants a 350-foot tall hangar. I don't know what he's building yet.
Rockets.
I don't know.
Is there, you know, just I'd have to look at it again, but I'm sure you guys have all looked at it. Is there any way they can go into the industrial park off to the south and we grant them access to the runway systems?
Then we make no money.
Well, it depends on how much you're going to charge them to access the runway. You know, I understand what you're saying.
No,
it's tough.
It would be difficult to get a through the fence agreement approved through the FAA at this point in time, especially with the existence of our current through the fence agreement.
Just because you screwed up once doesn't mean
Mr. Parrish was not on the board at that time.
I know.
Or sitting anywhere in this room.
But
she voted against it.
Something of this magnitude, maybe you can get it through the fence.
Well, I just, if we lease this out based on our master plan to individuals, we would be making a fraction of the money because we wouldn't lease the ramp space and we would have to build the ramp space. So that, the way I put this out to them was, I'm not building anything. I don't want to build anything. If you want to build it, lease it from me and build it. It's $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they came back and said, that's fine, put together a ground lease proposal. Mr. Carr and I have worked on this and we'll continue to work, and I'll bring them back once we're closer to a final for them to make a presentation, get some renderings, get some site plans.
Yeah, I think we need the venom.
Robert, by the way, I was engineer of record during the period of time when that through the fence agreement was negotiated.
You were one of the guys,
yeah, I was part of it. We met over at the old terminal there. That's number one. Jim asked me so we got the first 18 months, it's basically free if they're out there trying to get their permits, and then from 19 through 36, if they're out there trying to get their permits, they basically pay 50% of their, is it 50% of the 19,000? Or is 19,000 equal to 50%?
It's 50% of the 460,000.
Okay, so
annually.
And so the next clause is if they get all their permits, like let's say they're miraculous and they get all their permits in 9 months. So for the next period of time through the 36 months, they don't pay anything, even though
they start paying 50% at the end of 18 months, no matter what, and they go to 100% at CO, no matter what, or 18 months.
But lessee completes all construction of the MRR facility with a certificate of occupancy issued for the aircraft hangar, then authority shall waive all abated rent payments during the construction period.
During the construction period.
Right, okay.
But that is limited to 36 months.
Okay.
The construction period.
The construction, the total
permitting and
construction is limited to 36 months. And my reasoning for that is we had another site on the airport, and this is a previous administration, a previous board that was approved for lease, then they didn't start payments until they had a CO. It sat for almost 9 years.
Yeah, what you're doing is right.
Where the tenant had it, we made no money, and so
you tied it up.
You tied it up. So.
Jim, I sat in on a meeting with as the Economic Development Committee. Is this the same group?
It's the same group,
yes.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think that this is a great opportunity. I agree that it needs further investigation, but I like that we've learned our lessons from the past, and the lease is solid. I think that we're pretty well protected, regardless. That land won't just sit there. So I think that they will need to actually proceed. I agree. I would like to hear from them, know who they are. I don't see that they're incorporated in the state of Florida. I couldn't find them on SunBiz. I'd like to see that happen, and find out just who they are. But yeah, I think that it's a great opportunity, and I look forward to meeting them.
I too looked for them, found the same thing you did. Not much. Something I've always felt I would like to see here is an MRO, just because of the employment opportunities now with the A&P school here, what it means to the community. So I definitely want to explore this, move forward, explore it, and do as we're all talking, vet them, and
Jim, are you?
I think this could be a really good thing for the community, the airport, and the community as a whole, should it come to fruition.
Thank you. So, Jim, are we looking, so would they execute, do you think this ground lease would be executed prior to our meeting with those gentlemen?
Oh, no.
I can ask them to come to the next meeting and make a presentation.
Do it. I'd rather see it as in a study session, because this is going to, rather than a meeting. I'm sorry about more meetings, but I'm thinking this is going to take a while to vent these guys and get all the questions answered. But either way, we just need to meet them.
Yes, let's establish the meeting.
Well, let me, with the board's concurrence, let me do this. Let me get with them and get some times after our next meeting, as I don't think we're going to wrap this up anytime before that, and then at our next meeting, we can set a special meeting.
If we got a light agenda, that's no problem. If we got one that's going to lunchtime.
Well, I hope not.
Because I don't see any pizza coming in right now.
The next item should take 2 seconds. Well, I think so. So do you want to pass a motion to move forward and bring them back at a future meeting to make presentations?
I think conceptually what you're looking for, I mean, just the reason that we brought this to you is that the concept of what I refer to as an abatement and waiver of rent based upon objective driven, that's how we crafted it. So it's not just a waiver of rent, we're going to abate it, meaning we're going to say you don't have to pay it, we only waive it if you meet a certain objective. That's the way Mr. Parrish and I decided to design the lease. We want to make sure that you're amenable to that process. Everything else, what I would say, the balance of this is all still subject to negotiation. We just want to make sure that you're aware of that concept and agree to that concept.
I agree with it wholeheartedly.
Right. So I think that's what we're just simply looking at is, do you agree with that? The balance of this is all continues to be subject to negotiation and determination of who these individuals are and what they intend to do.
Yeah, and obviously we need site plans, we need surveys, we need a lot of stuff to get this to final. So.
You need a financial background?
Oh, yeah.
We do, but like Attorney Carr pointed out, these are often single-use entities. They create an entity for this project. They have no background to check.
Commissioner, if I could address that, normally what happens is they come in and strike the deal, such as this one, and then they either have financing elsewhere or an investment partner. But the single purpose entity, I'm not certain if it's this one, but this one may actually be incorporated in Delaware.
Yeah, it is.
So that's why you're not finding it on SunBiz. I believe this one is a Delaware corporation. That's not unusual for them to develop that, to come in, strike the deal for the purposes of the land lease, and then go get their investment partners for that purpose. I believe that is the reason you're not seeing this on SunBiz or you're not seeing anywhere else associated with this entity. Now, whether or not we want to do business with an entity out of Delaware, that's up to you in the vetting process. But it's not unusual for them to negotiate this as what I would call a phantom entity out of, say, Delaware.
Mr. Chairman, what would you estimate? A project of this size, you're probably talking $40–50 million.
From what I have gathered from them, over 100.
$100 million.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a sun seeker either.
That's why we're putting in dates.
The abatement.
Yeah.
100 million, that's, yeah, you're talking probably 40, 50 million just on the
Jim,
bill.
at $100 a square foot basically is.
Well, you got the ramp in there and all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So,
Plus the ramp.
I'm sure you're talking more money than that.
Their construction schedule may be actually different. This is what we came up with conceptually to make sure the board agrees
start.
with this conceptually.
Yeah.
They may come back and say, it's impossible to do this all in 3 years. Would you consider
No.
this?
They're telling me today it's wholly possible. I think reality may. Well, so I think that the biggest issue is going to be steel availability.
But again,
Build
the
something.
whole concept is one of abatement, waiver, objective-driven. And those are the things, the principles that you'll have to agree on as we proceed forward, once we get all of the other information as to what they want to construct and how long they think it's going to take them to do that.
Yeah, permitting is going to be a challenge.
The what, sir?
Permitting will be a challenge.
FAA environmental,
FAA
because this is going to require an EA, because our EA was for smaller development.
GA, yeah.
What's the total land they've taken up?
66 acres.
It's all the north side.
It's the remainder of the north side.
So,
It's a good deal
how about
if
a
you put it
motion
together.
to approve in concept the abatement waiver period with the understanding that there'd be further review of the documents project as scheduled to be determined by Mr. Parrish? Something like that?
I think it's more than
The
that.
schedule? Okay, yeah, keep going, that's just the basis. Approve in concept the abatement waiver period as presented,
I would just say the lease concept as presented.
the lease concept as presented, okay?
Do you need me?
Leave out the waiver period?
It's the concept is all that was
It's all-
inside
Okay,
that.
okay. Commissioner Oliver.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the lease concept with Blackbird Aviation Group as presented. And whatever the last part was.
That further review.
Just proceed.
Yeah, just proceed. All right. so
You're
we
on the
have-
right track. Keep going.
Repeat that, Commissioner Oliver. Approve the lease concept?
Seriously?
Yes, seriously.
I make a motion that we approve the lease concept as presented.
That's all you need right there.
Beautiful.
I second.
All right, we have a motion for an approval and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Good job.
All right, last.
The fence.
The fence. So we did not fence the extension of the new parking lot, the grass area that would ultimately be paved. We talked about putting a continuation of the split rail fence. Apparently lumber prices are so high that it's cheaper to go with chain link. We're proposing black vinyl chain link around the rest of that. Black vinyl chain link kind of disappears into the landscaping. We have 3 proposals. The cheapest is $36,750 with B&B Fence Solutions. I believe that is the cheapest. It's the first one that they gave me, so I'd like permission to move forward with fencing that, and we'll probably in the future switch to black vinyl on all of our parking lot fencing, getting rid of the split rail because of the maintenance requirements of the split rail.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion the board approve CEO Parrish to sign a contract to install additional fencing with a not-to-exceed amount of $50,000 as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? All right, we have a second. Thank you. Any further discussions? I agree with you, James. I don't like split rail. Maintenance.
I love split rail, but I don't like the maintenance.
Right.
The look is nice.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
You almost need the put it along the existing.
We ultimately will.
All right. Unless somebody can tell me I'm wrong, I think we're done.
It's lit.
Other than commissioner comments, I'll start down here with Commissioner
I have
Andrews.
no comments. This is a great meeting. The United Way presentation was really some good information. I really appreciate it. Angie taking the time to come and make the presentation. Other than that, nothing to say.
Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to again welcome Sun Country to PGD. We're really excited. I think that's great. And good job, staff and everyone, for negotiating that. Welcome, Gary. We're excited to have you here. And again, thank you to Angie for coming and presenting to us. I think it was incredible information and really shows what our community's needs are and helps focus our attention on what we can do to bring higher paying jobs to the area. Thank you.
Commissioner Coppola.
I think this has been a terrific meeting. I hope everything works out well for what we've approved. And thank everybody for coming, and welcome to the club, Mr. Gary.
Robert.
We got our job cut out for us with some of these major things. And again, welcome, Gary, and you were very fortunate that this was one of our short meetings.
Gary, your board where you used to be, how many members were there?
It was the Lee County Commission.
Okay.
Commissioners.
Okay. But, all right, I think no comments from me. Dr. Pitts, good seeing you. Staff did another great job. Amazing. Gary, welcome. Sorry I haven't been over to see you. It's a little busy out there. And I know you guys are busy. But with that being said, Jim, what?
Your gavel's over there.
Yeah. I thought you were going to hit it for me. This motion.
If you put it between us, I will.
Meeting adjourned.